Good morning. Yes. Welcome to the program. Ram Aguko and Regina Manyara. All of us are here as a team.
To kickstart your morning here.
Yes, that's how we do it.
We're coming to you live from the broadcasting house here in Nairobi, Kenya.
Absolutely.
Thank you for choosing
CBD. Today was supposed to be, the Kutukun Mandamano. Gracefully is not there. As Mio said, they're going to have a vigil for those who lost their lives last week. But as that was happening now, there is a serious puzzle and mystery surrounding the presence of President Suluhu here a fortnight ago. That was said by opposition chief Raila Odinga yesterday. We'll be taking a look at that on The Viewpoint and much more. But more specifically, we want to talk about the issue of politics, sustainable development, and good governance. That is, in politics, sustainable development and good governance. Which way, Kenya? A lot has been happening over the past 11 months. We are almost 1 year after the election. Ram, imagine 1 year is almost gone, just like
1 year down the line,
yeah.
And right now the country is still talking about what happened during the elections, regardless of what the judge said concerning, you remember, hot air comments?
Yes.
Yeah, but we're still in that particular mood. Well, still in regards to what's taking place in the country also today on my end of the conversation. We shall be taking a look at one particular event that is being celebrated today. 100 years ago, in the year 1923, today, we are celebrating history. We are celebrating legacy in terms of the St. Stephen's Church. Well, this is St. Stephen's SK Cathedral that is celebrating 1 year of being in existence in the church, a legacy of faith. I shall be with the Provost Paul Karaoke Mwangi of the St. Stephen's SK Cathedral. Did you know that where Parliament sits today was once a cathedral? Well, stick around for that. My name is Ram Aguko. Thank you for choosing KBC Channel 1. As Victor said, we're here to kickstart your morning.
Yeah, I was there. 1923, I saw it.
So you saw it being built. Yeah.
I'll give you more. But
well, I don't know what's up with the gentleman this morning, but hey, we're here, yes, indeed, to bring you up to speed with what has been making headlines currently. And there's a lot of speculation, yes, with the presence of Samia Suluhu, that is the President of the Republic of Tanzania, at a time when the way the winds are blowing politically is that we may be having a truce in the horizon, and this is between government and opposition. And this is after developments yesterday where we saw opposition leader Raila Odinga say that he's ready to have a conversation with President William Ruto on the way forward, especially in lowering the cost of living. Is this the making of the 2017 handshake? We'll be keeping tabs on that, and also we welcome your view is in regard to what is happening in the political scene. Being Wednesday, if we compare Wednesday last week and Wednesday this week, there is definitely a change if the transport situation is anything to go by, as well as the situation within the Central Business District. It seems it is back to normal. But as the day edges, or rather as the day passes by, we'll be keeping tabs on this development, given that today we are moving away from demonstrations to peaceful vigils. That is how the anti-government-led opposition demonstrations there has morphed from opening the servers to cost of living to now peaceful vigils. Well, we'll be keeping tabs. I'm Regina Manyara, and we welcome your view. Our Twitter handle is at KBC Channel 1. My Twitter handle is at Ray Manyara. We have at Victor Law and at Ram Aguko. What do you think about where we are? Given even we had a report by InfoTrack there that indicated that to a larger extent, a majority of Kenyans don't think that the country is headed in the right way. What is your take? Get tweeting. And the Twitter handle at KBC Channel 1. But now let's bring you up to speed with our stories. And we start off with Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition leader Raila Odinga saying that he has been ready for dialogue with President William Ruto to find a lasting solution to issues affecting Kenyans. He urged the government to ease the burden on Kenyans and curb police brutality during demonstrations.
Addressing the International Press Association of East Africa, opposition leader Raila Odinga said his efforts to dialogue with the government on the high cost of living and audit of the 2022 general elections have not yielded much.
In light of the information that came to light from the whistleblower, so we said in order to settle the anxiety among the people of Kenya, let us do a professional audit, forensic audit of the server in the last elections.
Raila acknowledged that high cost of living was not peculiar to Kenya, but said the government can alleviate the burden. The opposition leader also criticized police for using excessive force on those taking part in their protest against the high cost of living.
We are witnessing unprecedented police brutality. We are also witnessing an unprecedented phenomenon of the state resorting to armed militia to quell protests. You have visited hospitals and morgues, and you have established that police and hired gangs have shot and killed or wounded scores of people at close range.
The opposition's planned protest on Wednesday will instead be replaced by solidarity parades across the country in remembrance of those who died or were injured during the protest.
That's the reason why we called off tomorrow's Maandamano, so that people can keep vigil and also pray. We're also going to launch a fund to help those families who have lost their relatives.
But in a press statement, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki said the National Police Service and other national security organs remain neutral and professional and shall not be drawn into political, ethnic or such other sectarian nuances whatsoever. He added that the masterminds of the widespread violence experienced during the protest, including those behind the consignments of money and weapons that were intercepted on their way to harm the public, will soon be held accountable.
So today, the opposition is going to be leading masses in a vigil to commemorate those lives lost during the past anti-government protests. We'll be keeping tabs on that, on the areas where the opposition says that it's going to be holding this particular protest happening in our political arena is that the Kenya Kwanza Bipartisan Talks team has extended an invitation to their Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition counterparts to consider returning to the negotiation table. Through the talks co-chair George Muragura, the Kenya Kwanza lawmakers said they are ready for the resumption of talks aimed at brokering a truce between the government and the opposition.
The Kenya Kwanza Alliance members of the Joint Bipartisan Talks Committee on Tuesday reached out to their counterparts from the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition to give dialogue another chance.
We have been more than ready to engage in talks, but it's fortunate that there has been no dissolution. There was only a suspension, and we are back.
However, the Kenya Kwanza team, led by George Murugara, who is the Bipartisan Talks Committee co-chair, maintains negotiations must remain within the legal framework.
All talks must be conducted within the parameters of the law. There is nothing extrajudicial, extrajuridical, extra-legal that we are going to do.
The bipartisan talks aimed at resolving differences between the government and the opposition, aborted 7 weeks ago.
The issue of IBC remains the most important issue on the agenda.
At that time, the Kenya Kwanza team accused the opposition counterparts led by co-chair Otiende Amolo of boycotting the discussions. However, Azimio leader Raila Odinga now says it is Kenya Kwanza who abandoned ship.
We have said ourselves that we don't want they have the loaf. Those are terms I talk about in Sumukati. We don't want any part in this government. We said that very clearly. But we said that people who voted for Azimio are Kenyans. They are entitled to opportunities in the country.
Among demands by Azimio is the reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IBC. It is now wait and see whether the opposition will heed calls to resume negotiations or not.
Question of truce there. Now the government will conduct a major security operation at the Kamologon forest to flush out bandits and other criminals who have for years terrorized residents. For ease of effective communication and prompt response by law enforcement agencies, the government is constructing the Tangul Kalomongon Karen Road, known as Amani Road, which links Elgeyo Marakwet and West Pokot counties. Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki visited him, and he maintained that the government will not relent in its resolve to flush out bandits.
Kamologon Forest has for years been a hideout for bandits. Now the government has moved in to rid the area of criminals. Construction of Tangul Kalomongon Karen Road, which links Elgeyo Marakwet and West Pokot counties, is underway. Once complete, it will facilitate swift response from the law enforcers.
Siku ya mateso imeisha. Serikali hii ambayo imeongozwa na Mheshimiwa Rais William Ruto imeamua ndio itakuwa serikali ya kumaliza kutoka Kenya hii shida na aibu ya uhalifu na kutojali sheria.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki says criminals will be pursued individually and no one will be victimized.
Hii ni mambo ya uhalifu, hakuna ukabila uko hapa. The officers both from the National Police Service, the National Police Reservice and the Kenya Defence Forces are pursuing criminals and they are not harassing the general public.
The Cabinet Secretary was addressing a security baraza at Kalia Market at the intersection of Elgeyo Marakwet and West Pokot counties. He commended Governors Wesley Rotich and Simon Kashapin for spearheading peace-building efforts and investing in social economic programs that enhance harmonious coexistence between communities.
Kilifi County's ad hoc committee investigating the Shakahola killings say the vast Chakama ranch could have been used to dump other victims of murder besides followers of the cult leader Paul Mackenzie. This follows the discovery of 3 recently buried bodies in the 4th phase of exhumation of bodies from the ranch, raising queries as to whether all the 425 bodies so far recovered were Mackenzie's followers. Abdiaziz Hashim reports.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua on Monday evening met Kenyans living in Italy at a hotel in Rome. It's here that he said the main role of the envoys will henceforth be to market Kenya and ensure the country's business profile improves globally, in addition to other diplomatic duties.
Well, indeed, that was not the update on the Shakahola sittings there with the ad hoc committee. Let's have a retake of that.
The probe into the Shakahola killings continued Tuesday with members of Kilifi County Assembly presenting to the Senate Ad Hoc Committee 18 factors that could have led to the deaths of over 400 people in the 50,000-acre Chakama ranch.
There was also abuse of freedom of worship as from the Article 32 of our Constitution.
They cited poor supervision of land usage, laxity on the part of local enforcers, vulnerability and desperation among the populace, lack of a regulatory framework on religious activities, and failure by the prosecution to present a strong case before the judiciary on occasions the cult leader Paul Mackenzie was brought in court. The MCAs, led by their chair Karisangirani, said the 3 fresh bodies found 3 days ago way into the probe indicate that the ranch could have been a dumping ground for victims of murders committed elsewhere.
These are fresh people who have succumbed either deliberately by denying themselves of the bumper harvest that we're experiencing or intentionally being strangled not to partake of what is coming in the near future. We were also unable to establish why intelligence agencies failed until it became a national disaster. We were also unable to know whether all bodies exhumed were followers of Mackenzie, or maybe they died somewhere else, and maybe the Shakahola forest was used as a dumping site.
The ward representatives have further proposed to build a memorial park in the forest in remembrance of those who died there.
We need a memorial park at Shakahola, not only for the display of the names or the victims, but also burial of the exhumed bodies that maybe we didn't find the owners.
And it will be a reminder to the entire Kenya nation that radicalization can happen in religion.
So far, 37 people are in police custody over the killings linked to Mackenzie. Coast Regional Coordinator Rhoda Onyancha said the exhumation exercise will resume when the pathologists complete autopsies on 87 bodies exhumed in the fourth phase of the operation.
To the corridors of justice, details have now emerged that the late Sharon Otieno received threatening text messages from strange numbers warning her to keep away from my husband, and that is in court. Now, this is what during the sixth day of the witness testifying when Ezekiel Ade, a forensic investigator with the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, took to the stand at the Milimani Law Court. Now, the late Sharon Otieno was found murdered in Kodera Forest, Homa Bay County, in September 2018.
The information contained herein is relevant to the matter.
As the trial of former Migori Governor Okoth Obado and two others in the murder of Rongo University student Sharon Otieno continued Tuesday, an investigation agent has told the court of the early warning signs to the late.
We shall one day come face to face. Full stop. Action plan begins. You won't escape.
Ezekiel Ade, a forensic investigator with the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, told Justice Cecilia Githua that the messages came from the same phone number.
Even if a man has never stuck in new, prepare for it. Just do your worst. But Rem, there is judgment day.
While cross-examining the witnesses, the lead defense counsel Kyoko Kilukumi, representing Obado, tasked the investigator to explain why he did not know the person who sent the warning messages.
According to the analytics, some information, not all information that was extracted from the gadgets was represented.
The case continues Thursday, where prosecution has lined up 5 witnesses. Elsewhere, former Mungiki leader Maina Njenga, his brother Peter Njoroge and aide Felix Lakishe have been freed on 100,000 cash bail or 200,000 bond. While freeing Njenga and his co-accused Makadara Chief Magistrate Francis Kiambia say the state did not have compelling reasons to have them detained pending trial. And Senior Principal Magistrate Esther Kimili was directed the officer commanding Industrial Area Police Station to release the mobile phones of Embakasi East MP Babu Owino and 6 co-accused persons once done with forensic investigation.
First accused mobile phone to be released to him before close of business. Summons to issue to OCS Industrial Area.
During a mention of the case where the 7 are accused of conspiracy to commit subversive activities, the magistrate directed the second accused, Calvin Gaucho, to file his complaint of assault in any police station within Kilimani area.
Now off to Parliament, where the National Assembly Budget and Appropriations Committee has approved a publication of a legislative proposal seeking to change the operations of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission to a part-time basis. Now, if passed by Parliament, the SRC Amendment Bill, sponsored by Kiminini Member of Parliament Dismas Baraza, will reduce the budget expenditure of the Lina Mengich-led commission by over 700 million shillings.
It has commenced restructuring of constitutional commissions with the name of reducing the expenditure and saving taxpayers' money. The National Assembly Budget and Appropriations Committee endorsed the publication of Salaries and Remuneration Commission Amendment Bill 2023, which, if adopted by Parliament, will limit the sitting of SRC commissioners to 15 sittings per year and operate on part-time basis.
I wish we can go this way as Parliament. We look at the commissions, we check the board memberships, we look at our parastatals, which ones are doing more or less the same job. We match them, we discard many more, so that we can have a lean government that is more efficient in terms of service provision.
The bill's sponsor, Didmas Barasa, argues the main scope of work of SRC can be executed by the Secretariat that sits on full-time basis.
For example, today, what will they be doing in the office? Tomorrow, up to Friday, what will they be doing in the office? They have already done the policy directions for their individual commissions, that this is how the commission will conduct his or her affairs. So once you've done it, what are you reviewing?
Article 250 of the Constitution provides that each of the 10 commissions must have a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 9 members. The Salaries and Remuneration Commission, however, have 14 members who sit on full-time basis.
They spend more than 800 million as benefits and the remuneration in their current as currently constituted. But if you go my way, that they will be sitting on part-time, then it will only cost Kenya per year 8 million. So we are actually saving more than 700 million. This only for SRC alone.
The Keminini MP and the Budget Committee are in agreement a review of operations of the Constitution Commissions is necessary. The endorsement of SRC Amendment Bill 2023 by the Budget and Appropriations Committee now sets the stage for members of the National Assembly to debate on whether to review the operations of SRC as well as other constitutional commissions.
Now to Kiamaiko, where the residents in Mathare constituency there and Nairobi took to the streets to protest the killing of a man by police. The demonstrations, which reportedly occurred after a botched security operation, brought business and movement to a standstill for about 2 hours as protesters blocked roads while engaging police in running battles. Police have launched investigations into the shooting incident.
Hapa ni Kiamaiko na leo ameua ndugu yetu bure. Hajawahi iba, hajawahi fanyia mtu kitu mbaya. Wamekuja askari wamekosa kitu ya kukula, wamezoea askari wa hii Kiamaiko hapa kwa hii post ya Huruma Post. Wanajua waizi ni wakina nani? Waizi wanaiba wanakulanga na hawa. Waizi wanga waizi washika, waizi wanatembea free hapa ndani.
Mimi kama mfanyikazi hapa Kiamaiko najua kijana sio mwizi, ni mfanyabiashara hapa Kiamaiko. I want to condemn the police. Kwa hii mauaji wamefanya na tunataka haki ifanyike. Hii ni hata wakati ya Yasin Moyo ilifanyika tu hivyo katika balcony, na leo tunataka serikali itupatie nguvu tuchukulie hii kesi na huyo askari ameua kijana afuatiliwe na astakiwe ndio familia ipate justice.
Well, that comes at a time when the opposition actually has been calling out the police on matters of police brutality. We hope that justice will be served in this particular case. Now we cross over to business, where Kenya plans to roll out over 200,000 electric motorcycles by the end of 2024. President William Ruto says this will be achieved through a raft of proposals that will make Kenya an e-bike hub. He was speaking during a tour of Rome Park, an electric motorcycle assembly plant in Nairobi, where he said the plan is to have more electric motorcycles on the road in a bid to ease mobility and curb air pollution.
Demand for electric motorcycles is on the rise as more Kenyans become more climate conscious. So far, Kenya is producing 2,000 motorcycles annually, with experts saying the country has the capacity to ramp up production to more than 1 million units in 5 years. The government has implemented various tax incentives to attract more assemblers in the country. The government has removed VAT tax on electric motorcycles in an attempt to suppress the cost of e-bikes.
Tumesema VAT kwa
bodaboda ambayo inatumia stima tutaondoa 16% VAT ile iko juu yake.
Speaking during a tour of Rome Park, President William Ruto has said tariffs at electric motorcycle charging points are set to be reduced, as well as the removal of VAT tax on spare parts for batteries.
Spare parts zote ambazo zitakuja kutumika kutengeneza bodaboda, pia tunaondoa ushuru ya VAT.
The government will also reduce the cost of electricity at charging stations to ensure riders can maximize their profits and pay less to charge their bikes.
Na hata betri yenyewe pia tunaondoa ushuru. Ndio ukitaka kutengeneza hiyo betri Kenya iko bei ya chini.
Early this year, Rome, which is a Kenyan-Swedish maker of electric buses and motorcycles, announced plans to expand its production capacity to about 50,000 units annually.
To agriculture, where the country is banking on a cutting-edge technology and research to transform the sector. The country is working with research and financial institutions to modernize the sector to help Kenya attain food security. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi says the government will increase funding for research in institutions of higher learning in a bid to develop solutions to challenges facing the agriculture sector, which contributes almost 30% to Kenya's annual wealth.
Globally, agriculture technology incubation centers are fast becoming a platform for transforming scientific discoveries into products for economic development. In Kenya, institutions of higher learning are fast adapting the concept of incubation and research centers to increase innovation. Speaking during the launch of the Kantaria Agricultural Technology and Innovation Center in Upper Kabete, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi says the collaboration with the industry is necessary to usher in a new dawn of prosperity in agricultural innovation.
Much as innovations such as ATIC will enhance the efforts in university financial sustainability, university managements have the responsibility to protect scarce resources by putting them to proper use. Recent reports about the financial resources of universities are not encouraging, and austerity measures are called for.
The Kantaria Agricultural Technology and Innovation Center seeks to bridge this gap by opening space for all to access the most current developments.
This will serve as a hub. We shall create a hub, a bespoke relationship with the continuous flow of information from the spoke to the hub and vice versa.
When I've been on this journey, I don't know where our paths crossed, but suddenly we seem to be walking in the same direction, Bwana VC, and I think it's wonderful that I found a kindred spirit in you, particularly with all your team as well. I know that
Once complete, the Kantaria Agricultural Technology and Innovation Center will serve as a catalyst for food and nutrition security, create employment opportunities, and enhance an inclusive economic development. From Nairobi, my name is Frederick Mwoki.
Now we shift focus to matters sports, and some good news here is that Kenya under-20 rugby team Chipu registered their first victory after humbling Hong Kong, China at 22-16 in their final Pool B clash of the World Rugby Under-20 Trophy Tournament at the Nyayo National Stadium. In another match, Zimbabwe won their first World Rugby Under-20 Trophy match since 2012 after narrowly beating the United States of America 38-37.
Kenya, who've got the red jerseys, playing against Hong Kong.
2 tries from Mike Oduor proved decisive in helping the Kenyan team secure the first win in this year's tournament. Oduor's first try gave Kenya the lead after 5 minutes and was converted by fly half Edwin Bugu, the first of 3 successive kicks for Chipu.
Easy. Try.
However, Hong Kong China fullback Dylan McCann reduced the deficit with a penalty 2 minutes later before Captain Taylor McNutt drove over the lock Gren Hui and opened the defense with a powerful carry.
As they keep the sport clean. Successful.
Another try from Oduor was converted by Patrick Wainaina to give Chipu 2 scores clear, but McCann set up a tense final quarter when he struck with 57-minute penalty. Kenya was penalized just as the clock turned red and Hong Kong China launched a long and unsustainable attack that took them from the 22 deep into the home territory before it was halted by Omoro, with the penalty being followed by jubilant celebration on and off the pitch.
Has been called is holding on, and I'm sure what Kenya will do is scratch and kick for touch. And on Sunday at noon, Kenya versus Zimbabwe for position 5 and 6. The odds, phase by phase. They know that.
Meanwhile, Zimbabwe narrowly beat USC 38-7 to win their first World Rugby Under 20 trophy match since 2012 in a match played in the same venue. Zimbabwe will now face host Kenya in the Sunday's 5th place playoff, while USC will face Hong Kong China in the 7th place playoff.
Zimbabwe, they've cut the gap now to just 1 point, and they're not wasting time on it. And that is a replacement scrum half, Mandaza.
That is the voice of none other than Daniel Wahome here, who also does radio, sports and TV. Then does one. Well, congratulations, boys, for doing us proud as Kenyans there. And also some good news from the cricket section, where Kenya defeated Sierra Leone by 4 wickets in their second ICC Under-19 Cricket World Cup qualifier played yesterday at Dar es Salaam Gymkhana in Tanzania. Further details, are always available on our website. So let's also find out what the women's national team, Malkia, volleyball team that has Malkia, the final squad is actually out. Those that are going to be representing Kenya in the FIB Challenger Cup in France and the Africa Cup of Nations in Cameroon. Now, coach Leozilma Di Maura, alongside his Kenyan counterpart Paul Bitok, dropped Kenya Pipeline center player Gladys Ekaru and Prisons Kenya attacker Yvonne Wavinya before the team left their training base in Morocco for Laval, France.
Malkia strikers have been in training camp for the last 3 weeks at FIVB's high-performance facility in Morocco, playing 2 friendly matches against the country's national team that is also preparing for the African Nations Cup. Tacticians Luizuma Dumaura and Paul Bitok named the final squad of 14 players ahead of FIVB Challenger Cup and the African Nations Cup. Kenya will play their FIVB Challenger Cup quarter-final match against Colombia on Thursday in France. Some of the notable inclusion in the squad are setter Rose Magoi, who makes a return after a long absence, and debutants Lois Simiyu and Juliana Namotera. Regulars Marcy Moim, Sharon Chumba, Edith Wissa and Lorraine Chebet also made the cut. Kenya Pipeline center player Gladys Ekaru and Prisons Kenya attacker Yvonne Wavinya were dropped. The FIVB Challenger Cup has brought together 8 teams, hosts France, Mexico, Vietnam, Kenya, Colombia, Sweden, Ukraine and Croatia.
Well, that effectively puts a cap on news this morning. We invite you to a website for your perusal to keep up with what is happening in the political scene, business as well as sports. It's Wednesday. Unlike what we witnessed last week, we expect peaceful vigils. That is what the opposition maintains is going to be happening today. We'll be keeping tabs on that. I'm Regina Manyara. I wish you a pleasant viewing ahead.
That I know is that you are full of lies, but you are not going to fool me again. And don't you even think that you're going to come out of this one alive. Where are you? Tell me! You should at least face me, you darn woman!
Don't you look at me like that, Karina. I know that you're expecting Rodrigo's baby.
I want us to take advantage so that we can fix a pending issue that we've had for many years. Our divorce.
Well, you can forget about it. I'm not signing it.
Las bandidas.
Nice to know ya, let's do it again. How we did it on a one night stand. Well, I wanna be more than a friend. In a Rastaman party, and chalice we boom, chalice we lit. In a Rastaman party, smoke, drink, I love my girl to some reggae. I call her on the phone.
Jamani, hebu nitumieni hata kama ni kale kadeni kangu kale kanusu mwezi.
Bidi tuwe na mpango mzuri. Mimi naona nikiendelea hivi zari nitalipuka au nitachizi.
Nadhani unaweza kuwa perfect kama Rick bila kwenda shule design.
Lazima nianze pale na nimeamua kwanza hapa.
Kwa hivyo samahani kwa hilo bwana Dingo.
Lakini hilo silo liloleta. Ni kuhusu wewe na mke wangu.
Watu wako na kisirani, sijui kama ni bibi alimchapa jana, ni drama dioe. Hani ni anyuki ama na nini hiyo simiwa. Tupia drawer, is it part?
Ati?
Tupia artist drawer, is it a part? Young lady. Nilitumia mbolea yako kuchora. Huko unasema.
Hapana.
Enda kwa labor ward.
Kwa labor ward ama kwa labor wafanyikazi? Ule kwa wafanyikazi.
Si ndio kwa labor ward.
Si labor ward.
Labor courts.
Labor ward ni pale ya mama kujifungua.
Sio huko. Why are you working with me mheshimiwa? Kwa nini? Nauliza.
Mimi naagyu na wewe.
Anga utakola kumangana kwa tayari mheshimiwa. Anga waache tuongee na mama. Unaelewa?
Welcome back. Karibu sana to the program. My name is Victor Lowe. Thank you so much for staying with us. It's now time for us to take a look at what we have on our local dailies before we get into today's discussion on the viewpoint. Today we'll be talking about the issue to do with politics, sustainable development and governance. Which way Kenya? Which way Kenya? Politics, sustainable development and good governance. Which way Kenya? In studio, I have got Honorable Wilson Sosion joining me in studio. He's nominated Member of Parliament. Mheshimiwa, karibu sana to the program.
Thank you and good morning.
As well as Christine Odera, who is a youth peace and security practitioner and an expert. She calls herself Daughter of the Soil. Karibu.
Asante.
Asante sana. And joining me shortly in studio is Joseph Cherorot, who is Member of Parliament of Kipkelion East. Okay, before we get there, how about I take you through the traffic situation in the city and across the country. Let me start with Nairobi. Today is the traffic situation in Nairobi is pretty okay. Looking at, because it's actually 10 minutes past 7. So if you are still in the house, this is the time for you to start getting out. Now, let me start with Ngong Road. If you're using Ngong Road, then this is the time for you to leave the house and drive to work or take your way to work. Of course, Ngong Road moving very well. Just around Junction Mall is a bit of some traffic because of the traffic light there, but moving down all the way to Adams Arcade is moving very well until you come to around, this is around City Mortuary, thereabout. around Daystar University, a bit of some snarl up at the roundabout, but down to Valley Road and ultimately into the CBD is moving very well. That is how the traffic looks like along Ngong Road. So watu wa Ngong Road, you are good to go. How about residents using Langata Road? Langata Road, so far so good. Out of 100%, I can give it 95 because down to Uhuru Gardens, moving towards Wilson Airport, so far so good. Mbagathi Way, outbound also moving very okay. But coming down to Langata Road and then taking the slip road just behind the Nyayo National Stadium, also moving okay, joining Uhuru Highway and finally into the CBD. Now, just after that, let's go to Mombasa Road. Mombasa Road, you have an option. You can either use the expressway or use the normal route, the road that you usually use, that is Mombasa Road, looking very okay. All the way from Maradaima Shopping Mall, coming down to Ole Sereni, to around Capital Center, South B, thereabout, joining Nyayo National Stadium and ultimately to the CBD. That is as far as that's concerned. How about Watu Westlands? So far so good. I think there is nothing much to talk about here around Westlands. Moving very well, coming to Kempinski, the National Museum, overpass, joining Uhuru Highway, University Way, and into the CBD. So far so good. Moving very quickly to Watu Mombasa, good morning. There's a bit of some snarl up today around Kongoya Market. If you are just coming using the Nyali Road, around, it's a bit of a traffic. This place is called Kengeleni or Lights. Watu Mombasa will tell us better. There's always a traffic situation here because of the Kongoya Market. But just after that, coming to the new Nyali Bridge, moving okay, to CBD, also iko tu sawa. Around Makupa police station thereabout is a bit crazy kidogo tu, but so far so good. Watu wa Mombasa, you have your time to go to work. How about Likoni ferry, crossing ferry there? So far so good. So if you're using the Likoni ferry, rush and catch your ferry to work. Kisumu, good morning again. Moving from that side of Riat Hills down to Kondele roundabout into the Kisumu CBD, so far so good. There is nothing much to report about in Kisumu, all the way from Nyamasaria, that is outbound from Nyamasaria coming into the CBD, also moving okay. That is as far as this is concerned. The blue patch is the lake. My director Okinyi says that I should also take a look at the traffic on the lake. There's no traffic, Okinyi. I mean, it's okay. Iko sawa. You see that? All right, that's fine. And finally, what were Eldoret? So far so good. There is no traffic situation. I think this is because of the bypass which was constructed, cutting all the way outside the CBD. That's how the Eldoret town looks good. That's how it looks like. So far, so good. Okay, I'll come back and take you through the front page of our international dailies. But how about now? Taking you through the front page of our local dailies. Let me start with the front page of the Daily Nation, searching for a deal. That is on the front page of the Daily Nation, searching for a deal. On the front page, we have got two big boys. I call them the two big boys. We have the president there and opposition chief Raila Odinga. A lot has been talked about with the presence of Tanzanian President Mheshimiwa Suluhu, having been in the country a fortnight ago. How true is that? We'll be looking at that later on. Protest called off today to allow for vigil for victims. That's according to the opposition. That's on the front page of the Daily Nation. Into the inner pages here, former Governor Samboja returns to radio. I think that is his profession, his background. And again, search for a deal. Inside efforts to break deal with the Ruto and Raila impasse. That is inside efforts to break Raila-Ruto impasse. That is on the inner pages here of the Daily Nation on page 4 and page 5. Completely fleshed out there for you to take a look at that. Is there an offing in the horizon? Azimio said to resume protest, file ICC case over police brutality. That is what we have on the front page of the Daily Nation, and we'll be taking a look at that shortly. And time is running out for bipartisan talks. Kenya Kwanza tells Azimio they gave them some conditions, and now Murugara says that reconstituting the Electoral Commission remains top priority for the talks team, and that is what is on the inner page of the Daily Nation. Before I take it to my guest so that we can take a look at what we have on the front pages, Mheshimiwa Sosion, there is an African proverb here. If you think you are too small to make a difference, try spending a night with a mosquito. What do you make of that proverb? Africans, if you think that you're too small to make a change or a difference, just try and spend a night with a mosquito.
And you also remember the old narrative of how the mosquito wanted to marry the ear.
Yes.
And that's why the mosquito keeps coming to intimidate the ear every night. A mosquito is so small, but it can give very, very painful bites. So small as it is, it can do big things. So, and other wise men elsewhere say, little things count.
Yes.
So don't ignore.
Don't ignore.
Biblically, you remember the parable of the builder. The stone that was ignored.
Finally, they came for them.
Yes.
Yes.
So we can go across civilizations and religious groupings and different civilizations, and there'll be many such words. Don't ignore anyone. Don't ignore anyone. Everyone matters, and everything counts.
Yes.
Even the little ones. Yeah.
They will come to help at some point.
Absolutely.
Christine, what do you make of that proverb? Africans will be the end of me. Good morning.
Good morning. It just goes to show how little efforts cause a ripple effect. And we should not overlook those small steps, because it's those small efforts that cause the huge change that we're all looking for and speaking about. And so no one should feel like they do not count. Everyone is entitled to their own efforts, because we all have different talents. And it's in those small talents, when we bring them together, then we're able to effect change and cause a lot of havoc, for that matter, as well. Yes.
Mosquito is a very small animal. But you see the ripple effect. Malaria, one of the leading causes, just to open the discussion, Mheshimiwa Cherorot. But how do you interpret it? If you want to feel that you're too small to make a difference, then try spending a night with a mosquito, and just one. The entire night you will not have a good one.
Victor, I'm one person who cannot spend a night with a mosquito. So long as it is in my room, I'll wake up at night and make sure that I destroy it, because it can cause destruction to your health. And also, even though it's a very tiny insect, it causes problems, and you might end up in hospital. So this means that you don't have to ignore or take things as petty issues. You have to take it seriously and make sure that it is under control.
How do you relate it with our current situation and governance in the country, Christine? Because you all agree that we should not ignore small things. Even when you're feeling unwell generally, you start by the symptoms. I'm feeling this and that, I'm feeling this and that. Then you seek an alternative from the doctor. But how do we relate this proverb with the small things that we take for granted in our system of governance currently in Kenya?
I think it goes down to the basic principles of governance. Taking responsibility, accountability, and making sure that the rule of law is observed at all costs. Have we seen that? Maybe not.
Yes.
And so maybe it's those then small pockets of people experiencing social injustices, then coming out to say, but this has not been done. You promised me this, but you have not done that. And so we are seeing a lot of little efforts within different cohorts of people coming to really champion their issues because they have not been addressed. And so these little efforts coming from across the country, really trying to address the social injustices, the lack of accountability, the lack of fulfillment of some of these promises, and the lack of rule of law. Yes.
Lack of rule of law. Mheshimiwa Sosion, your background is classroom. And as a teacher, there's little things that you see in a student. I'd like us to also broaden that discussion. You pick a student who probably has some social background affecting their learning progress. How do you connect this to a student and generally to a country, little things in terms of governance?
Yes, and I remember every time I talk to students, I told them little things count. Small things that you ignore are the things that can make you grow big. And in teaching background, there is what you call individual difference. When you're teaching, you're not teaching a crowd. You're teaching an individual. Learner.
Yes.
And they present themselves differently. So you address the needs of each and every individual, and that requires a lot of pedagogical skills to do that, so that you carry everybody along. And that brings me to the issue of what you call national unity. We are not reinventing the wheel. All these things were addressed at independence, and the national philosophy was coined, that how are we going to carry ourselves as independent Africans in developing ourselves and moving with the developing world. And our forefathers coined the philosophy of peace, love, and unity. Let our people be united in what they are doing, in development, and let our people live in peace, not conflicts, not strife, not inflicting pains on your neighbor or causing suffering. Let everybody live in peace, and let people love themselves. And in East Africa, if you look at the regional level, if you look at Tanzania, they were able to really exterminate tribalism. There are many tribes in Tanzania, but you can't see the philosophy of Ujamaa, and there was strong leadership from Mwalimu Nyerere. Kenya, we adopted the capitalist system. We started struggling for land right after independence, fighting each other, stealing, promoting corruption. And if you look at it, now we are 60 years old. It's a very resilient economy. But that has been mismanaged because of self-interest. Eventually, we forgot the leadership that coined the same philosophy of peace, love, and unity, vacated that route, and went the route of ruthlessness. And that is why even in every electioneering year, people reflect on how to address the needs of everybody. And when you look at the new government, Kenya Kwanza, it was formed out of political confusion that was promoting dynasties and the interest of dynasties at the expense of the poor people. And that is why the Kenya Kwanza came up with the bottom-up economic. When you look at the bottom-up, you draw the pyramid of Kenya. Millions of Kenyans are at the base. They are suffering. They have no economic opportunities, cannot access food, they cannot access the basic services, and education of their children is at stake. Health services, very poor. And that is why there's been that revolution that we must deliberately focus on that. We can't ignore. We need to carry everybody along, everybody and everyone. And no one should be left behind going into the future. And I'm happy that philosophy, the new philosophy, is taking root, and it is now internalized in the feelings of Kenyans. And Kenyans are looking forward to a new republic, a new economic order. If you look at the last elections, it was not more of politics. It was not. It was about the economy. It was the politics of the economy and equality and social equality, and how to push people from the bottom. Because jurisdictions and democracies that have taken everybody up, and particularly in the global north, has been driven by strong social democratic policies, where people at the bottom unite and they support a political arrangement that speaks to their issues. This is exactly what happened in Kenya, and President William Ruto was able to drive that agenda and sell it across tribes. And for the first time, we saw an election where tribalism was very insignificant.
Okay, so
and people were speaking to issues, they voted, and even those who were still slaves of tribalism and the dirty thinking of the past were surprised and shocked with the mind shift of Kenyans when presidential elections results were announced. I was an agent at Bomas, and I saw the numbers, how they came right across. And up to now, some have not believed that Kenyans are now thinking differently. We have a generation, a very vibrant generation, a very optimistic generation that wants to be part of the global economic order. These are our Kenyans, and we must give them that space.
All right. Let me
no tribe.
Let me ask Mheshimiwa Cherorot on this, because what you've talked about is about unity. And when you see this headline here, searching for a deal, let's also just open it a bit. Searching for a deal for Kenyans. Let's just say the two gentlemen are out of the question, out of the picture, but Kenyans are now searching for a deal amongst ourselves. Now that is good governance and sustainable development. If we are going to have sustainable development in a nation, then we are going to look for a deal amongst us. Mheshimiwa Cherorot, based on this, how do you open this discussion based on this headline, excluding the two gentlemen on the front page?
Okay, Victor, searching for a deal, as you have said, actually, if we can go back, let's go back a bit to the history of this country. Let's go back to 2007, where the country was banned, where we had Kofi Annan, who came and he brokered actually the peace in this country. And right now, we did a very, very peaceful election. Kenyans actually voted. They demonstrated also their rights and by voting Kenya Kwanza. And we had a very peaceful election, as our friend has mentioned. But after that, things actually changed after some times. I don't know what happened. I don't know what came into the minds of Azimio leaders. And they went ahead actually by taking people to the street. Otherwise, we had a peaceful election, and the Kenya Kwanza government was very, very ready and geared to move forward in this country with the development and all that. Every party also has got, as a political party has got a manifesto to deliver, and the same thing with Kenya Kwanza. As we see also, Victor, we go back to this country, when we started, there are three things that actually we are trying to manage in Kenya after independence, and that was ignorance, diseases, and also poverty. Those are the key issues, and those are the basic that we are supposed to deal with it as Kenyans. And if you come a long way, we have had also those who have been president of this country, the first president, the second, and the third, and even the fourth. And if we see, Victor, what is going on now about this deal, that could that be the reason why these other people went to the street to seek for or to look for a deal? And I want to say that whether there is deal or no deal, Kenya must move. Kenyans actually, we have so many issues that are affecting us economically, and poverty also is getting on us, and so many other things. So my suggestion or my take on this is that we should not think of only this. What is the deal for, and what does it help?
Yes.
I think the best thing is that in this country, we know that in an election, the winner actually takes it all. And we should give room to the winner also to develop, and also to make sure that they deliver the manifesto. So I think that is where the challenge is. Yeah.
Let's take a break. And you've raised a very salient point there. What is the deal all about? Is it a deal between President William Ruto and Honorable Raila Odinga, or is it a deal for all Kenyans. So what's the deal all about? I mean, let's just expand that discussion so that we can understand what the discussion is all about. We'll take a break and we come back. I'm going to take you through the front page of the Standard and the Star newspaper, even as we continue with the discussion. Stay with us.
Kuhukumiana na tusiwe ni wenye kujaji wengine, yani kuambia tuwa encourage watu katika kufanya ibada na kuomba msamaha na kurudi katika nyumba za Mwenyezi Mungu Subhanahu wa Ta'ala.
Na vile vile pia mja anaweza kutekeleza vitendo vyema sana mpaka akawa karibu sana na janna, lakini akatenda kiovu kimoja ambacho kinampelekea kupata adhabu ya Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala na kuingia katika jahannam.
Jamani, hebu nitumieni hata kama ni kale kadeni kangu kale kanusu mwezi.
Bidi tuwe na mpango mzuri. Mimi naona nikiendelea hivi Zari nitalipuka au nitachizi.
Nadhani unaweza kuwa perfect kama Rick bila kwenda shule design.
Lazima nianze pale na nimeamua kwanza hapa.
Kwa hivyo samahani kwa hilo bwana Dingo.
Lakini hilo si lililonileta. Ni kuhusu wewe na mke wangu.
All right, welcome back. Now, let me take you through the front page of the Standard, quite different from what we have here. Civil servants to brace for July salary delays. That is, civil servants to brace for July salary delay, efforts to upgrade to a new salary payment system for government workers, which seeks to boost the management of payrolls that have in the past been marred by ghost workers, has encountered hitches. There's a hitch there. And now civil servants to brace for July salary increase. Not a good point for the civil servants. The Ministry of Suluhu botched mediation talks. Tanzania president was in the country on July 12th and 13th. For what Azimio leaders say were talks to end demonstrations in the country, but that her efforts were futile after she was snubbed by government. However, officials say she came for holidays. All right. Raila, Kenyans united by cost of living matter. Ruto targets big taxpayers in IMF probe. That is on the front page of the Standard. Not a good way for the civil servants as far as this is concerned. Mheshimiwa Sosion, we've covered you for so many years, even vouching for better living standard for teachers and civil servants when you are still in that docket. And when this one comes, not a good point for civil servants.
I think it's being taken out of context, and people are trying to create anxiety among teachers and civil servants. The Salaries and Remuneration Commission has developed structures, and the president has approved a salary award of 7 to 10% for teachers and civil servants beginning 1st of July 2023 and is tenable for 2 financial years in 2 equal installments of 22 billion for this financial year and 22 billion next year. And that closes the review cycle of 2021 to 2025. That is a fact. And the fact that it is still being worked on may not necessarily reflect in the July payroll. It may not, because the next stages of approval is employers engaging in social dialogue with unions and signing collective bargaining agreements, and then the rest will be the Treasury to implement. It can take some bit of time. It may not even be done in August. It can be concluded in September, and it can, if it is implemented in the payroll of October or even November, let's take it hypothetically, it can even be implemented in December. It will be backdated to the 1st of July. So those are realities. We have engaged in negotiations in the past. I remember 2011, we contested for conversion of teachers on contract to permanent. That was done and backdated to July, and the numbers enhanced to 23,000. Salaries in 2012, we were out for 21 days. That was done. It was agreed, implemented in the month of October, and backdated to July. So we should not even create stories. Making it even a headline is ineptitude on the side of the media, because you are conveying wrong information. It's a done deal. So it's a matter of administrative processes being undertaken so that it is regularized. Finally, when it is paid, and that time of when to be paid, I cannot be very sure, but I know once the processes are concluded, and the Treasury implements it, it can implement in August, it can implement in September, and is backdated to 1st of July. It shall be backdated to 1st of July to the last coin.
I think that explains what's, just a minute, this explains what's also quoted as on the memo, so that we make it open and clear to the public that this is to inform you that all that there has been a delay in processing of salaries for the month of July 2023 due to the logistic challenges occasioned by the migration of the old manual integrated payroll and the personal database, the IPPD system, to the new online unified human resource system. That's according to the memo. So you are it's just talking about the complexity of the old system, the process.
And that is a different matter altogether. Is that one now is speaking to the delay of salaries because of shift in technology to new programs. That is something else. But then working on the salary structures and regularizing is another administrative process. So those are two separate things. But then that does not mean workers will not earn. The delay because of certain factors, which has been explained convincingly in that arrangement. Workers will earn their salaries in July, maybe the normal salaries without any adjustment, or even it will be with adjustment. And then in the payroll of August, there will be changes, like even the Finance Bill, Finance Act, which has not been implemented. Once it is implemented, it will have implications on the payroll. In August, we expect those changes. But then with time, everything will. But appreciate one thing, that Kenya Kwanza government gave a commitment that it is going to retain a respected, well-supported and motivated public service. That is a philosophy, underpinning philosophy of Kenya Kwanza. And as a Labour leader who was working within the framework of developing the plan and signing various charters, I am completely satisfied that the commitment to respect workers is good. And that is why you can see this surprise announcement. Even workers were not ready for it. They were surprised that a government can make a pronouncement and can make preparation so that workers don't need to agitate for salary review. It is the responsibility of government to mobilize resources, project the needs of workers, because our policemen must be motivated. They can't work in poverty and doing difficult jobs. Our civil servants in government offices, they don't need to engage in corruption. They need to be assured that their terms and conditions of service are being reviewed with a change in inflation. Our teachers should remain motivated in the classroom and expect continuous review. This is just but the beginning. When the economy is so bad, the way it is, so dire, and government can still afford 7 to 10%. What of when the economy stabilizes?
Okay. Let me get
so
your,
it is a mission of
here.
Kenya Kwanza to retain a motivated and well-supported
civil service
and teachers.
Thank you. Mheshimiwa, what's your point of order?
I wanted to add on what Social was saying, Victor, about this salary increment. For the first time in Kenya, salary has been increased without even demonstrations, without agitation. This shows that the commitment of Kenya Kwanza, that they are committed and they want to make sure that the country is balanced. As for the issue of the delay of salary, it was actually in the media, it was there and it was known because due to the challenges that were there about the economy of our country. And also, you understand that we've just come from doing the budget. This will be the first budget for Kenya Kwanza. Yeah. So there has to be a lot of adjustment and there has to be a delay. So what I have to say is that Kenyans are supposed to understand that things are moving forward and there is hope. Yes.
All right. Christine, maybe you want to say something on that?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it also begs the question, why last minute? We've always known the financial calendar of government. So why last minute? And I feel if I look at it from the civil servants' perspective, they're also asking why last minute. The cost of inflation right now in Kenya is crazy. A lot of them are surviving on loans. So the longer you delay their salaries, the longer they are running the risk of running into poverty. So it's a question of why are things being done haphazardly and last minute? And those civil servants who have been in the system, and I'm sure Mheshimiwa here can tell us, understand the cycles of government. And so you keep asking yourself, so they knew they didn't have money, but they waited until the lapse of a financial year to start a conversation? Then you see, things are not adding up in that particular sense. And I think that's why civil servants who have done all their best to make sure that government is put in place are sad.
Yeah.
And so those are the questions that we should be getting answers for. And those are the answers that civil servants want to hear. Not the negotiation of we'll increase your salary. It's a matter of also timing. Because remember, the banks have a time for when those loans need to be paid. They will not consider your salaries were delayed. So those are the pertinent issues that a lot of these civil servants also want answered. Yes.
Okay. Mheshimiwa Session, you want to respond to that?
I think she's made it very clear. And you look at it, we must also accept challenges beyond human control. After the elections, we've had a lot of intensive disruption of government operation, which is uncalled for. And I think it has reached time government stamp its authority, and the free arms of government must work in harmony, but not in contradiction. What do you do? The Treasury has prepared a finance bill, and that is the executive arm of government, on how to implement government development programs and the manifesto that was promised by the people of Kenya by Kenya Kwanza, because it will be implemented through public resources. National Assembly has adjudicated the bill properly, taken it through public participation, and I've seen arguments that, oh, there are so many people opposing. It's not about the numbers. It's not a referendum. Public participation, you're looking at both quantitative and qualitative aspect. You can have 90 people out of 100 rejecting something, but that does not mean in public participation you throw
that
out.
Is of good quality.
The 10 can be more convincing than the 90. So really we should not create economic confusion, political confusion, and we create an ecosystem that makes it impossible for government to operate. Now, the finance bill is in court, and you all know the Finance Act itself is an act of parliament. Was supposed to be operationalized from 1st of July, and it was envisaged to collect at least 2.8 trillion shillings in terms of taxes within the next financial year. We have lost a whole month That means it will be less. If at all, the courts will give it lease of life so that it can operate. In the absence of that framework of collecting revenue, the revenue collection measures are placed in jeopardy.
Yeah.
Then the expenditure side, the Appropriation Act, Mheshimiwa is here, it ceases to exist.
Sure.
And part of the appropriation is salaries. So it's logics. You pay money and you appropriate and you expend from collection. So if you frustrate the collection, there will be no expenditure. And all this boils down to politics. And you have shown me the deal and the two big phases. There are no two big phases in Kenya. There is a president. The president occupies his own space. And the person of a president in Kenya will always remain above all the rest. The rest are citizens. And I think it has reached a time, and we said little things count.
Yes.
I remember in 2002, during the big transition, the first major democratic transition from a living sitting president to a new president in Kenya under Moi. Moi was supporting Uhuru Kenyatta very strongly. Yeah, but when he realized that he had been defeated and the people had elected Kibaki, Moi as a responsible statesman, there is a character of a statesman and a calling of a statesman. He knew the first thing I have to do is to rally full support to the new president, despite the fact that I did not support. And he ordered Uhuru Kenyatta to prepare a concession speech and read the concession speech, which he did. And conceding alone defeat is part of democratic duty. It is what brings peace. It's what brings peace. Allow me to finish. And after that, Kibaki was able to settle and organize government. He reorganized revenue collection measures. Remember, revenue collection was at 250 billion. But at the end of his term, it was almost at 1 trillion. And he was able to, the domestic revenue collection was able to finance the entire budget of Kenya government. And by the time Uhuru left, it was at 2.1 trillion. And that is the essence of being democratic and accepting the functions of democracy. Let's come back, fast forward. We started measuring in 2007. We brought down an economy that was growing at 7.1% down to 1.8. We undid it with politics by engaging in undemocratic beliefs. Now, what should happen where we are now? That deal, if we want a deal for Kenya, there is one thing that needs to be done. Uhuru Kenyatta, the president who retired, must publicly come in a sober mood and with a clean mind and with a heart of a statesman, tell the people of Kenya that the president of the Republic of Kenya is William Samoei Ruto. He does recognize as a retired president, he supports, and all Kenyans must support the president who is elected. That practice is done in the US. He has not done it.
I think
if
we're
he
relying
does
so
that,
much on history and
if
not
he
learning
does that,
from the same history.
No, things that must be done now.
Because
away from history.
Because
Allow
you see,
me to finish.
we keep going back. We keep going back to what has happened before. But then you realize we are in an age where we are not informed by the same history that we purport to have known very well. We don't need Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta to come and say that Ruto is the president.
He must recognize.
Kenyans
He must.
voted in the president. He was sworn in. So why then are we giving one particular person the power to come out and say he's not the judiciary? If anything, he's the ex-president right now. So let us focus on the issues that are pertinent to Kenyans and let bygones be bygones.
What he's doing is the one sponsoring all this confusion.
If we're going,
he has not recognized as an outgoing president. It is important.
But now you see that
Kenyans
just want an economic
we can never authenticate that, Mheshimiwa Sossion, that he's the sponsor.
Now allow me to finish because she interjected and that was our
But just to make it clear that we cannot authenticate that allegation.
Any presidential candidate who loses in an election must concede. So if the two go together, that an outgoing president recognized as an elected president, a presidential election loser concedes, if this were done, immediately after 9th of August, we wouldn't have had all these contestations. The country could have settled and we would have had smooth operation of institutions. And right now, we would be collecting revenue and we would be working. That's a fundamental fact.
Victor, we always know that a president is a symbol of unity.
Right.
And I want to say that even former president, let's see, like what our sister is saying, that we don't have to go to history. When Moi handed over power peacefully to Kibaki, and he acknowledged that government, and he respected, things actually moved on well in Kenya. Smoothly. When it came to now, you see, the former president, Uhuru, when he left the office, he insisted and he stick to his party. And up to now, he still believes that he's the party leader. So the challenge, that is where the challenge is, because some of the Azimio team are still seeing him as a symbol of unity within amongst themselves, and that is why you find that there's a lot of challenges. The other day he said that I'm willing and I'm ready to meet with His Excellency the President, Dr. Samuel Ruto, which I'm encouraging him to meet him and also go public, like what you have said. And this actually is going to finish this Olobalu in our country. Yes.
Okay. I want us to move a step further and take, I've not taken you through the front page of the Star. Raila, why we believe Ruto on the wrong path? We had already started the discussion. Raila, why we believe Ruto on the wrong path? That is on the front page of the Star. He says that President's foreign policy has left Kenya embarrassed on world stage. Raila was speaking yesterday with Foreign Media House. I think that's where we should stop at that particular point for the front page of our local dailies. Now, let's get to the real discussion. We're talking about politics, sustainable development, and good governance. Gentlemen and lady, you've correctly put it. Because of good governance, we must have politics plays a key role here. And you've mentioned former president, taking back to the history. Based on what we have, how do you connect politics, good governance, and sustainable development? Currently, we are almost 1 year into the new government after an election. We can take stock on that. Let me start with you, Christine.
Well, it will take a paradigm shift. Because we cannot have the same solutions to the same problems. We cannot have the same people who cause these problems also forcing solutions upon us. And you see, that is the history that we have been accustomed to. Social welfare, kind of an issue where it's, like I said here before, our share democracy, where you're doing something because I do not have. You're feeling like I am entitled to roads. So when you're talking about sustainable development, how am I supposed to transport my goods from the shamba to the market when there are no roads? That is what Kenyans want. It's not an issue of who was the former president and who is the current president. It's about just putting systems in place. Hospitals now, even our level 5 hospitals, do not have proper infrastructures in place to make sure that the most simple of diseases that we are accustomed to in the tropics, malaria, is not addressed. And so these are the pertinent issues. When we're talking about access to water, access to the basic human rights, we do not have that. And that is why people are, I can tell you for a fact, not a lot of people here in Kenya are willing to die for this country. But those who are willing to die for this country are also frustrated because of the custodians of democracy who think that they own democracy more than other people. Young people for the longest time in this country have been asking for access to even do that economic empowerment. The cost of registering a company today here in Kenya is ridiculous. Why can't we even get tax exemptions for those who are just starting off to then help raise that economic charter? When we come to talk about the African Free Continental Trade, the cost of just a flight from here to Uganda is not affordable to that particular young person who wants to do business. And so as a government, at those conversations that we are having to make sure that there are policies in place to make sure that the cost of running business is reduced and favorable to increase that tax. And then the government can come back and tax, for sure. But then you realize that the cost of production is ridiculously high. We'd rather
Which, of course,
import
the president is
from China.
saying that he's working on to make sure the cost of production to have that triple effect.
Victor, we're now at a time where
yes.
we are playing catch up. We do not have the time to keep thinking. We need action. We've been thinking for the longest time in this country. We are playing catch up right now. And if we don't catch up sooner, then we'll be overtaken. And I think that's why there's a lot of bile when it comes to President Suluhu being in the country or not. Because the other day we heard her say that they've, for the first time, experienced a lot of private investors going to Tanzania because the neighbors, which is us, is burning. Well, that can be debatable. But that also goes to show that we're also growing as a democracy, that the development partner is not seeing the need to stay in the country. They'd rather go elsewhere and help. But then, all the gains that we have gotten as a country, we are losing it because of our political processes as too historically engaged.
Very well. Mheshimiwa Sosion, as you respond to that, how do you connect? Because there must be a very thin line between politics, sustainable development, and good governance. A very thin line.
A very thin or no line at all. They are intertwined and they are gelled together. There's nothing in my policy studies, and I've done analysis over time. Everything, the foundation of development is politics. It is politics and it is leadership. That's a fact for sure. But then before I come back to that, let me get to the issue of catch-up.
Go ahead.
We cannot be on catch-up mode throughout. And I think we need to drop that. And that is what Kenya Kwanza intended to do, to drop the catch-up mode, and we engage in real revolution and transformation of our economy. Then what does it take? It's a leadership. Leadership. If you look at the Asian tigers, like I can give example of Malaysia. I've been to Malaysia. The Prime Minister of Malaysia, who is elected, is automatically the Minister of Finance. And he supervises all the strategic plans of all the ministries. And they must all be reviewed mid-term to ensure that they must be attained at the end of 5 years. So the nation and the country has what we call strategic plan, the national and ministry strategic plans. And they've worked on 5-year strategic plans. When I was there in 2007, they were on what we call the 9th Malaysian strategic plan. And they're working on strategic plan. That has transformed their technology and everything. And it is all about leadership. And Malaysia came to benchmark with us in the 60s. We can go on Korea, the same. And they've transformed themselves because of commitment to leadership and investing in their resources and reducing their corruption to zero. In those countries, corruption is punishable by death. But here, we changed after independence. We engaged in cartelism. We engaged in corruption. We engaged in cronyism. We engaged in promoting dynasties, and we engaged in wrong leadership. We are still trying to do the same to create confusion. We have lost 1 year after election. This is a 5-year term for Kenya Kwanza. We have lost 1 year. We have a balance of 4 years for Kenya Kwanza, so that we can see the plan of Kenya Kwanza working. So all this is politics. But I can say Kenya as an economy, it can't even match with Tanzania. Tanzania is not a destination of investment for anybody. Kenya, globally, experience is yes, that's a fact. Kenya is an economic hub, a global economic hub, and a strategic communication hub. Anybody wanting to invest in South Sudan will keep the money in Kenya. Anybody investing in Rwanda will keep in Kenya. Anybody investing in DR Congo will keep in Kenya. In Tanzania will keep in Kenya. So the first stop and a place of opportunity is Kenya. All we need to do is to throw away this dirt of politics out of the window, and everything will work. That's a fact for sure. So we need the cleanest politics ever in this country, and we need to sanitize the political environment. If it is a strong leadership, we have it now. If it is a transformative agenda, we have it. If we want to transform agriculture, that's the big agenda of Kenya Kwanza in terms of injection of inputs, resources, and expertise, it is going to change. If we want to transform the micro, small, medium enterprise, Kenya Kwanza has it. If we want to expand and grow the digital space, no country in Africa has got digital infrastructure like Kenya.
I'm happy
if we want to deal with settlement, it is here. If we want to improve the healthcare, we are a powerful country that can join the global economic tigers and compete. We cannot be talking about competing with Tanzania and Uganda, so we have that opportunity.
That makes me
we
happy,
need to do it now.
Yes.
We must do it. And let the president and Kenya Kwanza implement their manifesto.
Okay, thank you.
Then we evaluate in 2027.
Let's take a break. What makes me happy as a Kenyan is that we should not play catch up. I mean, we should be at par with the ancient tigers, the way, I mean, Christine is disagreeing. Let's take a break. Let's take a break. We'll be right back with more. Today we're talking about politics, sustainable development, and good governance in our country. Which way, Kenya? We are in 2023. We are celebrating almost 13 years into the new devolution, new constitution. We are taking a look at that after this break. Stay with us.
That I know is that you are full of lies, but you are not going to fool me again. And don't you even think that you're going to come out of this one alive. Where are you? Tell me. You should at least face me, you darn woman.
Don't you look at me like that, Karina. I know that you're expecting Rodrigo's baby.
I want us to take advantage so that we can fix a pending issue that we've had for many years. Our divorce.
Well, you can forget about it. I'm not signing it.
Bandidas, las bandidas.
Mtoto wetu ako na kisirani, sijui kama ni bibi alimchapa jana, ni drama dioe. Hani nianyuki ama na nini mheshimiwa? Kupia troa, is it part?
Ati?
To be an artist drawer, is it a part? Young lady. Nilitumia mbolea yako kuchora. Huko unasema.
Hapana.
Enda kwa labor ward.
Kwa labor ward ama kwa labor wafanyikazi? Ule kwa wafanyikazi.
Si ndio kwa labor ward.
Si labor ward.
Labor courts.
Labor ward ni pale ya mama kujifungua.
Sio huko. Sio huko mheshimiwa. Why are you working with me mheshimiwa? Kwa nini? Nauliza.
Mimi naargue na wewe.
Askari. Anga utakuwa kupangana yako tayari mheshimiwa. Anga waache tuongee na mama. Unaelewa?
Right, welcome back with Honorable Wilson Sossion, Member of Parliament, Christine Odera, Youth, Peace and Security Practitioner and an expert, and Joseph Cherorot, Member of Parliament, Kipkelion East Constituency. Today, our discussion is all about politics, sustainable development and good governance. Which way, Kenya? Mheshimiwa Sossion says that all these things, politics is the common denominator. But where is the sustainable development and good governance now coming in? Politics is taking its stage, Mheshimiwa Cherorot. Politics is taking its place. So the remaining two, where do they come in?
You see, Victor, I want to tell you this about politics, governance, and development. Actually, I can say that when it comes to leadership, I want to say that good leadership or good governance is blended with good leadership. And that is why in this country, we need to have the right leader. As we talk now, like what we've said, we've had several types of leaders in this country. The current leader that we have is visionary. He has a lot of plans. He has the plan, you call it the plan for this country. And this plan actually is supposed to be implemented. We have 5 years to make sure that the plan is implemented. And we have started off. It is only 1 year. I don't believe on the critics that they are criticizing the government. They started the first day. Please, we should give the president room to make sure that he delivers the manifesto and the plan. We have a lot of, when we see like in the agenda, we have the hustler, they have the hustlers, we have the universal health care, we have several agendas to perform in this country. And our president actually, the issue of corruption, like we've seen in several institutions, those who are involved in corruption, they have been actually kicked out of the ministries, they have been removed from the organizations, and right now the government is very keen in making sure that the country is actually moving forward with the development agenda. Yes.
Okay. You know, all of you are well traveled. What is the general outlook of Kenya as we speak 1 year down the line, or even not even 1 year down the line, generally? What is the general outlook of Kenya to the international community in terms of development and governance? Where do we stand?
Victor, I want to say that it's about the perception. What the media is writing there, like what you have been seeing in our, and I want to ask the media fraternity to be patriotic and make sure that we market this country out there. You see what is in the media, the foreigners or the foreign countries can read what is in there, and they believe in it. That Kenya is burning. And when you come to Kenya, people are moving peacefully in the streets. And but you see the highlights, small issues, small challenges that are there. You find that they magnify, they make sure that they build a more mountain out of a molehill. I think what we have to do is that, like the media, like what about this, let me go back, take you back a bit about this increment. I would like to see media houses writing that there has been an increment, there is this and this, instead of doing the negative. And by doing so, we are going actually to build this country.
In my media training, no news is good news.
Victor,
when a dog bites a man, that
is news.
Because it's capitalistic. And that's why the agenda setting is also quite...
You'll excuse me for that. But
if a man buys a dog,
exactly. Now that is news. But I think we need to move away from...
When a dog bites a man, it's not news.
Sure.
I'm completely being crucified on behalf of my colleagues. Okay. You know what, Christine? The general outlook of our country, the president is actually doing a reach out to the African Union. We had heads of state here several days ago. The foreign policy of Kenya is quite open for everyone to see. So how do we bring it back to our development so that we take advantage of the African Union? We have got other foreign bodies that we are also members to.
Yes.
How do we take advantage of that to improve on our governance?
You know, it goes down to the name sustainability in by itself. What is sustainability? And that, as a country, we need to define what sustainability means to Kenyans. Because you see, when it comes to foreign policy, you're also looking at your own interest that you're sharing to the world. And also looking at all these partners that are coming to Kenya, what interest are they serving for us as a people? And I'll go back to what the right Mheshimiwa said. As a country, we have not developed one strategic plan as a country, let alone the political parties or whoever comes in as a president. Do we have a strategic plan that we are working on as a country that we then review? And so in each electoral cycle, we are just adding to this broader strategic plan and then sit and review that strategic plan so that it's sustainable. Because Mheshimiwa here will come with his own ideas and the things that he will champion. When Christine becomes president, I also come with my own ideas. But so where do we leave the country? That is the question that we need to answer, because it's there.
No blocks kind of a blueprint.
Absolutely. We don't have a blueprint as a country where we are adding to, where we can also sit and say, this is where we have come 60 years down the line. This is what we need to change. This is what we need to change to. We have been working on this. We have gotten here. Like, let's take, for instance, the infrastructure. We have, for the longest time, cried that we don't have roads. Now we have some roads. The expressway is working, right? Now that we have that road in Nairobi, the person in Turkana, does he have the same access that we have in Nairobi? So you see, again, it is not nationalistic, it's a county development agenda. And that is why the other day I was very happy when Nairobi County was stopped from implementing the food, project.
Yes.
Because what does that then say to that young person in Bogoria who walks barefoot to class, who does not have bridges to cross when the road, when the rain rains? And so we need to also look at nationalistic ways where we are not putting other people at a disadvantage. That can only happen when, as a country, we have a strategic plan that then all these parties, all these new presidents that will be coming in are aligned to, and also get a chance to be informed on what successes the country has gotten to. And so their manifestos will also be aligned with what's missing from what has already been done.
That goes
and not starting
that's also calls upon the issue of policy as a nation, Mheshimiwa Session.
Absolutely.
Our policy as a nation, which also magnifies what we stand for. I don't know what's your response to that.
Now, if you look at the type of leadership that we have all over the world, like, of course, when you talk of Malaysia, it's a monarchy, term democracy. So there is a king, and about nine regional kings.
Yes.
So when you talk of the strategic plan, it's confined to the monarchy itself. When you look at the UK, there are monarchies. Most of these developed economies are monarchies. Then you have parliament and democratic entities working. Kenya is a pure democracy. It doesn't have a monarchy. Like the US, these are pure democracies. So it is the policies of the ruling party that prevails for that moment. That's the reality. So when Kenya Kwanza was elected, the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza automatically falls in place for the period that it is here, for 5 years. And I think what we need to do, and this is what I've been talking about, when I suggest that the outgoing president, Uhuru Kenyatta, and should have declared to the public immediately after election, and Raila Odinga should have considered at that time, it is not for anything. It is to create an enabling space for this manifesto to be tested for 5 years. It is a strategic plan for this period so that everything falls in place. And in any case, if you look at the manifesto of Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, they speak to more or less similar things with varying changes. And you can criticize such a national development plan through existing structures and institutions like Parliament. That is where you adjudicate. And our Constitution, in terms of values and principles and governance, Article 10 talks of public participation. In as much as you've come with a manifesto, the Kenya Kwanza plan, anything being done, policy, legislation, programs will be subject to public participation. That means it must receive the public approval, public audit, public enrichment, because at the end of the day, it belongs to the country. So what we need to correct in this country is political culture. What should we do when, and what should we not do when? So when elections are over, like now the stories of, Suluhu was in the country. Suluhu is not a Kenyan. She's not a voter in Kenya. And I think
that makes the question.
No. Allow me. Let us learn to manage our politics at home and finish our politics at home respectfully and carry on with lives of Kenyans. As you can see, the young Kenyans are talking about how do we fit in this space, these challenges, how do you get rid of them? You cannot get rid of them when you create an atmosphere of confusion in governance. That one is, we shall pay a price for generations. And I have said here, and I still repeat, Kenya cannot compare with any nation around within the region in terms of opportunities for investment and opportunities for growth. It can't.
Based on,
and I think
on what
it
you're
is
saying,
now time.
Based on what you're saying.
It is time.
Yes.
Yeah, it is time. It is time we strengthen leadership in this country. And we also strengthen the political framework.
So where's the Constitution, the new one that we pride ourselves of, I mean, has not joined those dots that brings that sense of clean leadership?
No, the problem that we have is not the Constitution. It is not even the laws. It is our own behavior.
Yes.
It is our own
so that brings the question, so how do we clean it? Because we have a Constitution, that is our guiding principle.
Yes, because let
it's like we have completely disregarded this.
Let me take you back to practical example.
Go ahead.
There was a handshake regime, and that handshake, transformed itself to Azimio.
Yes.
What the handshake regime was speaking before elections on 9th of August is different from what they're speaking and doing now. Yeah, they're now talking loud. They are champions of fighting the cost of living. And the cost of living went high when they were superintending. That is absolute. That is absolute. It's not politics. This is fact. This is not politics because we are not honest. What you speak in 2015.
Yes.
You should be consistent about it in 2016, 2017, 2018.
I disagree with you on that.
And that is indecent. and the media should not promote indecent politics.
Yeah. Okay.
Media should promote a strong culture of good governance and decent politics. That's a fact for sure. Because why do you speak something different in 2022, then say something in 2023 just merely to suit
that is your character as politicians.
Those are wrong. No.
That's your character.
Don't just push it and say those are politicians.
Shift goalposts, then you come and blink the
politicians
media.
and politics. Politicians and politics.
Let me get your voice.
Victor, politicians and politics cannot affect development. Don't just wish it away.
Okay,
that's the wrong thing to do.
But you also need to change the culture of shifting goalposts.
You see, Victor, I think we should not. We don't have to blame politicians. This is not about politicians.
Don't blame and don't push it away.
I want us to identify individuals, and it is high time that we come out with the truth that this person is the one who is causing problems. It's not about politics. It's about an individual. Let me ask you, why are we agitating for this? Why are we demonstrating in the street? Why are we going back to the street? After handing over power, Uhuru Kenyatta handed over the instruments of power to the president, the current president. And after that, he goes and he has his gang, he forms his group, and then he starts fighting the same government. Like what was happening, Victor, the other day, we saw a lot of politics, a lot of highlights about Uhuru's son being actually, people went to his house to search for those guns and all that. And what he said is that the children have been using these guns to go and kill birds. We are allowed to kill birds in this country. Actually, I think Kenya wildlife should be on his neck because of that.
And killing birds in where?
Yeah, killing birds in where. So what I want to tell you, Victor, is that let's be realistic. Let Kenyans tell us the truth. If you are going to demonstrate, what do you want as an individual?
And how are you going to demonstrate?
And we should not do this thing collectively and blame every Kenyan. We have, the Kenyans are so resilient, and even the leaders who are there. So politicians should not be actually blamed for everything, but they are doing the good job of bringing the country together.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Christine,
Yes.
I mean, we have to give it to the government, because the sitting government bears the entire mantle of responsibility to steer the country to the next level.
Absolutely.
When you look at the Kenya Kwanza manifesto and the plan, the president has a plan to mandate with a 5-year contract. How is he going to maneuver through this so that at the end of the day, the development agenda of Kenya Kwanza is completely in line with the expectation of Mwananchi? Remember, we have got a foreign policy, which I'll also come back to.
Yes.
So that we take advantage of our foreign policy,
Yes.
our foreign friends, the big boys out there, and tie it with our development here in the country, based on what the Kenya Kwanza is working on for the delivery.
When you look at better, it is ambitious, and it gives this illusion of transformation, which every young person, that's the language we want to hear.
Yeah.
We are moving digital, and again, we don't have the time to play catch up, because things are happening fast. You know, when we're seated here, you're all connected into the international space, so news is spreading very fast, and that's why now we are seeing a lot of brain drain. Why? Because you'd rather go to systems where are able to meet your economic capacities, and you're also able to feel like you're part and parcel of the bigger picture that then helps the transformation process.
Yes.
Right? So I actually applaud the president in looking at what the needs of the country in 2023 are, because we cannot in 2023 be thinking that we're in the 90s. That time has already passed. And in that, I applaud the president. However, we get to see that the time frames are not aligning with the transformation. And that is where the agitation then is coming from.
Yeah.
You know? So it calls for us to work really hard to implement the policies that have not been implemented and get to review these policies that have not been implemented, because who is doing the legal and ethical audits of all these projects that governments have been doing? And that's why I go back to saying, much as we have been borrowing from the monarchies in Malaysia and the US, what are those aspects of democracy from their perspective that we can borrow? And that then goes to beg the question of, do we need a particular country strategic plan that is not necessarily destroyed when another government comes into place? Then there's some level of consistency and not a complete change of all the gains that we have had as a country, because that is now the problem that we're seeing. The Uhuru's government came up with the Huduma number, the Huduma centers. Now it's easy for us to access government documents online. We should be now talking about something else that helps then increase the gains that we've had with the Huduma centers, because they have been working and they have been really helping. But now you're seeing that we're having a challenge with passports. We were having challenges with passports. That should not be a case when we've already moved digitally.
Okay.
So then, unless we have a consistency in some of our development gains, then sustainability is questionable.
Okay.
Yes.
This brings to the question, which way Kenya? Mheshimiwa Sosion, which way Kenya?
No, very simple. We gave ourselves the Constitution of Kenya 2010. We transited from a live presidency to a democratic president with a term limit of 10 years in 2002. And we saw the tremendous results in terms of economic transformation.
Yes.
But we've not changed our political culture. You can change the forest, but the monkeys remain
the same.
The same.
Yeah.
Can we? I am very specific with Article 10 of the Constitution, principle of values and governance, and we need to strengthen political values and governance. And I've said, on election day, what is the purpose of election? To elect leaders. And leadership is not a right. It is a privilege given to you. Honorable Cherorot does not hold a title deed of being MP Kipkelion. It's a privilege. He's holding it. The people can take it away. And our constitution is clear. People of Kenya are sovereign, and they can exercise their powers directly or indirectly. The moment the political institutions transform themselves and begin practicing the culture of respecting the people, I think that is when we'll begin moving forward. Because then if today Azimio is elected and it comes to government, Kenya Kwanza must accept, respect and occupy its traditional space. Now Kenya Kwanza has been elected. It is here and it has a mandate of 5 years. So coming around and saying, oh, open the server, oh, we want to, we now have politics on IEBC, oh, the cost of living. Now you create confusion. The way I look at it is that the activities around Kenya Kwanza, particularly these demonstrations that are grossly legal, they don't meet the minimum threshold of decent demonstrations that are practiced all over the world. We have seen people demonstrating in France, yesterday in Israel and all over. But here we see we perpetuate violence that brings down a country. Why are we always so keen in supporting a government that is in place so that you think it becomes easy for you to defeat it in the next election? When we finish an election, we begin destroying the country to prepare for the next election. That is not right. We must change our culture. If today you are elected president, I must respect you. If Cherorot is elected president, I must respect. Let us develop that culture. And Moi showed us. He supported Uhuru, And when Uhuru was defeated, he shifted his loyalty and support directly and his whole life and heart to Mwai Kibaki. Absolutely. And when Uhuru was elected in 2013, Kibaki and Moi collectively with their hearts supported Uhuru Kenyatta. That's the culture we need to carry on. Why did we change the constitution? Why did we change all these things? Then we practice the opposite. Actually, what you are doing, what Azimio are doing, are actually undermining the constitution and the political culture that we have developed instead of supporting it, because we still have a future, and that future is open to anybody. If you look at democracies in the US, there are moments when Republicans come to reign, there are moments when the Democrats come in, and it is common knowledge that interchange will always be there. Yeah. But the culture is, once a president is elected, is the president of the United States of America. And Americans rally behind that person.
Let me get your voice on that.
My word here is that every Kenyan, the day and the moment that Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, those two individuals, tell Kenyans from their hearts and from statesmanship that we recognize William Ruto as the president and we support for this time.
All right, thank you.
And then they play their role. For Raila, he can play a opposition role very well, comfortably, supported through state infrastructure. Okay. And I'm sure there is even a proposal in Parliament, a presidential memorandum to create the office of the leader of the opposition and give the infrastructure so that we run a governance that everybody participates in.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think you as a media, you should open up a space for good things. Don't inflame negative things that people have done. You are doing it. You're doing it. And in fact, no, I'm not crucifying. I'm saying it. Media are my friends. I've lived with them. I've grown. They've made me who I am. Yes. But do you know, in 2007, regular reports indict the media that it activated and fueled the conflicts. You know, in media, negative things is news. But sometimes you must think what is really is good for the country. So that you as media, you shape the development and shape politics. It is a challenge I'm throwing to you, very honestly, as a Kenyan.
That's a point for us to take a look when we
You have a homework.
We have a conference. We will discuss that later.
Yeah, you have a homework.
Which way, Kenya? I mean, we are here. Leaders, the legislative part of government, which way, Kenya, from where you sit?
Victor, we have to ask ourselves, where did the first rain started beating us?
A big question, yes.
You see, in Kenya, I think it's the only country whereby the ruling president refused to acknowledge his deputy or to recognize. And he ended up kicking him out. And he brought in the opposition leader, have the handshake, and the opposition leader ended up being the candidate of the government. It only happened in Kenya. It has never happened in another country. So what I want to say is that is where the first rain started beating us. And then after that, even though he handed over the power, still he didn't acknowledge. So it's high time for him to come out. And I think this country will move forward if the two leaders, the two protagonists, the former president and Azimio leader, and even the other team. I saw them the other day on TV, and they looked like beaten. They were rained on. Yeah. So what I want to say is that let's put down all the tools and start actually reconstructing this country. Those who have been affected, I know several properties have been lost, several lives have been lost. Let's come up together and reason together and move forward. And another thing that I want to add on top of that is that Kenyans, we should come up together. And also the media people, you should have a caucus of actually meeting together and talking positive things about the government. And I think that's going to help us. So it's high time that all our youth and all the classes, the upper class, the middle class, and even the low class, come together and reason together as Kenyans. We have the best country. We should not destroy this country. We should not ban our country. Yeah.
Takes you back to the proverb we started with. If you want to, a mosquito, a very small thing. Yes. Let me finish with you, Christine.
Yeah, which way, Kenya? We are the future, as everyone keeps saying. And you see, my challenge to me, to my Waheshimiwas here is, would you be willing, next time you get that nomination, to say, I am going to be a kingmaker and help a younger person take up this seat? Would you do that?
Absolutely.
Because, you see, we keep saying it's a problem of leadership. It's a problem of leadership. But we've never had someone just say, you know what, I have served nimechoka. I have done the best I have done for this country. Let me pass on the baton. You know, that is the leadership that we now we need to start seeing, because we have had the same people, the same ideologies being shared since Kenya got independence. A whole lot of young people want to occupy this space and actually be the change that we want to see. You know, so next time my challenge to the Washibua here is, once you get that nomination, say, you know what, I will support another young person in my constituency or in my region to take up that seat, and I will support them. Then we will start to see tangible effects of our leadership. But what we have right now in the country is a managerial position, not a leadership position, because the visions are not shared. We are not seeing the visions of the purported leaders. Yeah. You know, and I say this carefully because I will be that leader tomorrow. I am playing in that leadership role
are you
now.
in a political position?
And I am not immune. I am not in a political position. But then you never know what tomorrow holds. Yeah. And so I also take accountability to say that I am also responsible with what I share, with some of the platforms that I am in, what I am able to influence, the policies that I'm able to work on. Because let's remember also, youthfulness is a changing state. There were once youth.
And young people also grow old.
And young people also grow old, you know? Okay. And so let us also look at a future where we'll be able to look back and not say, I messed up a generation that's coming up. I messed up my grandchildren's generation because I was not able to do that which I was supposed to do to help the entire nation and not just specifically my family.
All right. Yes. Thank you so much. Mheshimiwa Sosion, there's a comment here for you from, he's calling himself Mwalimu Kibe. He said that based on the headline on the Standard, you've given them some hope to the civil servant. I think he's a teacher, so probably you explain them to them.
No, I've set the record straight because you see, the culture we have in Kenya is circulating negative information, which is not authentic, and that gives negative perception.
I think Mwalimu Kibe is happy.
Yes, he's very happy. And I'm sure all teachers are happy. Exactly. I'm sure civil servants are happy. I'm sure the police are happy.
Absolutely.
And the country will be happy.
You see your voice is heavy here. Mheshimiwa Cherorot, there's a gentleman called Keegan Wilborn. This is your constituent. He says, morning and thanks for program. Greet my area MP, Honorable Cherorot. Thanks for the good work and thanks for drilling water in my area, Kimaut, yeah. Then the question is, what are your plans to youth employment at Sonko Kimaut? That's your question there.
Yeah, they are aware about what is going on in the government, and whatever the positions I get, I usually distribute according to the wards that we have in the constituency. And very soon I'm going also to have a training for the border guys. We are going to train 50 to get driving licenses, 50 from every ward. And another thing is that the other day I had a meeting with 80 groups which have been formed in my constituency. And soon we are going to have some fundraising for them, and also to make sure that they access. We have the WESO Fund, we have Women Enterprise, and we also have the Hustler Fund. They should take advantage of that.
Yeah. All right. And what is the situation at Lundiani, the market so far? Everything
so far, kind of tried to reconstruct and put those rubbles. And right now, we still have the same people who have come to the road. We cannot blame them, but they have to be careful. And I want to also advise the truck drivers to drive carefully from our summit going down. And we are going to have a meeting today with the governor, and I'm going to remind him about the land which is supposed to be procured, so that we can be able to put up the market there. And then those people will get in there, and we can have an access road, which will also help. If you want to buy, you get into that access road, you buy your stuff, and then you leave.
All right. All right. Sounds great, because your area was worst affected during that accident, and so far. So good. All right. I think that's where we need to wrap it up. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me on the show. Wilson Sosion, nominated Member of Parliament, and Christine Odera, who is a youth peace. Sorry?
Former.
Former.
And former SG Nat.
And incoming CS.
Christine Odera, youth, peace and security practitioner and an expert, as well as Joseph Cherorot, Member of Parliament, Kipkelion East. Somebody is asking, why did I bring UD affiliated. No, we have to get facts right. Who said we cannot get a solution?
I am not UD.
No. Because of Cherorot and Wilson Sosio, we have to get a solution.
I'm a politician, you're CS.
I'm CS is a politician.
So your answer.
She's a physics expert. So
thank you so much.
We are different.
We are different.
Thank you so much. Answer gotten. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming to the show. And you as a viewer, asante sana for joining us. Good morning. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I'm surprised teachers are watching this.
The stage is set for a showcase of global talent as Kenya hosts the World Rugby Under-20 Trophy for the second time from the 15th to 30th of July at the Nyayo National Stadium. This year's edition will see 8 teams battle over 4 match days for a place in the World Rugby Under-20 Championship in 2024. Catch the matches live on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Jamani, hebu nitumieni hata kama ni kale kadeni kangu kale kanusu mwezi.
Bidi tuwe na mpango mzuri. Mimi naona nikiendelea hivi Zari nitalipuka au nitachizi.
Nadhani unaweza kuwa perfect kama Rick bila kwenda shule design.
Lazima nianze pale na nimeamua kwanza hapa.
Kwa hivyo samahani kwa hilo bwana Dingo.
Lakini hilo silo liloleta. Ni kuhusu wewe na mke wangu.
The only thing that I know is that you are full of lies. But you are not going to fool me again. And don't you even think that you're going to come out of this one alive. Where are you? Tell me. You should at least face me, you darn woman.
Don't you look at me like that, Karina. I know that you're expecting Rodrigo's baby.
I want us to take advantage so that we can fix a pending issue that we've had for many years. Our divorce.
Oh, you can forget about it. I'm not signing it.
Las bandidas.
Woman, I'm telling you the truth, yo. You're always on my mind. Nice to know ya. Let's do it again. How we did it on a one-night stand. Well, I wanna be more than a friend. In a Rastaman party, and Chalice really in a Rastaman party. Smoke, drink, I love my girl to some reggae. I call her on the phone, tell her I'm coming up something.
Mtoto wetu ako na kisirani, sijui kama ni bibi alimchapa jana, ni drama dioe. Hani nyanyuki ama na nini mheshimiwa? Kupia troa is it part?
Ati?
Tupia artist troa is it a part? Young lady. Nilitumia mbolea yako kuchora. Huko unasema. Hapana. Enda kwa labor ward.
Kwa labor ward ama kwa labor wafanyikazi? Ule kwa wafanyikazi.
Si ndio kwa labor ward.
Si labor ward.
Labor courts.
Labor ward ni pale ya mama kujifungua.
Sio huko. Sio huko. Why are you working with me mheshimiwa? Kwa nini? Nauliza.
Mimi naaguna na wewe.
Askari. Anga utakwenda kupangana kwa tayari mheshimiwa. Anga waache tuongee na mama. Unaelewa?
No member of this family should be working for this company now. And who else to trust if not family? Are you one of Joel's sons?
I need you to keep a close eye on Nick. I don't trust him fully.
He's nothing close to the truth.
Nick, baby. You've never been so big on character. What's changed? Can I talk to you in private?
Yeah.
You cannot protect us all the time.
None of you can afford to be caught up in this mess.
I can wash my hands and let you handle this mess by yourself with Akina Jazz and your teeth.
There's someone trying to bring us down. Us?
Why do you think I'm here, Nick?
Alice stole our daughter and document.
Do you have any proof of that?
You're working on it.
This is a matter of life and death.
Now, welcome back. We continue with this conversation right here on Good Morning Kenya. Thank you so much for sticking with us. My name is Ram Maguko. It's a pleasure having you around. Now, let's shift gears into matters concerning church. Now, in the conversation that we're about to have this morning, it's all about the legacy of faith. 120 years ago, at a time like this in the country, we had a very iconic monument that was laid here in Nairobi. Now, when you go to town, you see that building where we have Parliament, where we have Parliament buildings. Before, it had a different name. Back then, we had the St. Stephen's Cathedral. That is the ACK Cathedral. It was situated at that particular point in time, and it was built in 1923. Later on, it was moved from that particular place to the one that we now know today at St. Stephen's ACK Cathedral along Jogoo Road. That is at the junction where we have Jogoo Road and Likoni Road. Many of us know that iconic building that is situated in that particular place. Today, we celebrate 100 years of faith, legacy that has been laid by our leaders. Remember, worshippers have held many services there before for several generations in terms of worship. Well, this morning, let's talk about the legacy that has been laid by this particular church, the ACK Church, and what role it has played so far in changing the lives of Kenyans. I am with Provost Paul Kariuki Mwangi. He is the provost at the ACK St. Stephen's Cathedral. Karibu sana.
Asante sana Magana.
And you've had quite a remarkable journey since you started worship in the country. Now, Provost, first things first.
Sure.
120
years.
Yes. Since 1903.
Yes.
Where were you in 1903?
Very interesting.
No one here was born.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming, and we are celebrating a milestone.
Indeed.
When we look at the journey that you've taken, just give us a snippet of how it all started.
Thank you very much, and good morning, viewers. I'm so pleased to be here, my brother Ram. I really appreciate this invitation. As you have rightly put it, we are celebrating 120 years of God's goodness, and we are calling it a legacy of faith at St. Stephen's, Jogoo Road. Now, just bringing our viewers to perspective,
yes.
The Anglican mission began in the East African region in 1844. That is when the first missionary sent by the Church Missionary Society based in London arrived at Mombasa. And this was a couple, indeed. His name was, the man was John Ludwig Kraft, and his wife Rosine.
Many of us have actually read about
Ludwig
Kraft
indeed.
In our history.
He was a German, but sent by the Church Missionary Society.
Yes.
And he came to establish the Anglican faith in Kenya and in the East African region. And when they arrived in Mombasa, his wife was expectant. Rosine was expectant, and after a short period, she gave birth to a daughter. Unfortunately, both Rosine and the daughter died. And they died because of tropical malaria. And Ludwig Kraft did not give up the mission. He laid to rest his wife and daughter, And he wrote back to the Mission Society in London saying, in the East African coast lays the first grave of missionary. And he said this marks the beginning of the battle of winning this region with the gospel. And this is a statement that has continued to inspire generations, that we must be ready to pay the cost for the cause of the gospel. Now, Rudy Kraft continued to minister around the coast, trying first to learn the language of the people. Later on, he moved from the coastline and he established a mission station that now became like a Christian village. And it rescued a good number of slaves who were being transported to Europe, and those who were freed when slave trade was abolished. Those who were brought back to the East African coast, he received them in the missionary village. And that is why he christened them, taught them the faith, and prepared them now to go to church. And so in 1896, you remember, that is when the construction of the East African Railway began in the coastline. And history says it arrived in the city of Nairobi in 1899. And missionaries were following the same routes with traders and with explorers. So when the railway was completed, or it arrived in Nairobi in 1899, the missionaries also were able to travel now from the coast. And in 1902, that is when we start reading of a gathering of now Anglicans, an Anglican church being formed.
At 1902?
1902, at the Railways Club. That's where they were meeting.
So back then, 1902, we still did not have any church in Nairobi.
We didn't have any church. Nairobi was also in her formative stages. So this, and remember, the beauty about the CMS, or the missionaries who came through CMS, remember they are coming from London.
Yes.
And our colonizers were from the same place. So they were given a priority. Whenever there were transport or movement, they were given a priority. So they were among the very first missionaries to arrive in Nairobi.
So now we are looking at 1902.
Yes.
No church has been constructed.
No church has been constructed.
And they were so you were having fellowships happening at the railways facility.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. It was not until 1903 that now a church was set up, or they constructed a church using timber and corrugated iron sheets. In fact, they nicknamed it the Tin Tabernacle, because they are coming from a very well-established church down in the coast, but now in Nairobi, they've just put up, timber.
Some timber structure.
Yes, some timber structure, and they called it the Tin Tabernacle. And this is the church that served between 1903 all the way to 1923. During this period, it was enlarged 3 times.
Now, between 1903 and 1923, we're still within that particular period.
Exactly.
It's quite interesting, ladies and gentlemen, here. We are looking at the history of the ACK, and from 1903, where exactly was this church situated when it was constructed, this timber structure?
Great. The Tin Tabernacle was constructed at the then Jackson Road.
Jackson Road.
Jackson Road. Today is known as Parliament Road. So that is where it was constructed. And that is where, even if you find out, you'll find even St. John's ambulance. They were also there, neighboring the St. Stephen's Church. By then it was called St. John's Gate. But that's where the St. John's ambulance were established.
So the current parliamentary buildings that we see today, that it was just some vast piece of land.
We have a picture of 1907. Imagine, 1907, the Tin Tabernacle, or the timber and corrugated iron sheets church. And the neighborhood was just bush, shrubs all around it. Shrubs all around it. There were no good infrastructure. It was just a bush around.
Wow.
That's how the picture is in 1907.
I wish we had that picture here today, so that we can take a look at how it was then. No tarmac, no buildings, just shrubs,
trees, shrubs,
bushes.
Around. Bushes, yes.
And the tin tabernacle was placed there.
Standing there. Very interesting, Ram.
Fast forward, 1923.
Now, before 1923, let me bring you back a little bit.
Okay.
By 1916, this is very interesting for us. 1916, the clergy who was there was a Mzungu. And he wrote to the Missionary Society saying by now they were serving about 1,200 Christians.
Wow.
Every Sunday.
And these are Kenyans?
Yes, they had, they were a mixture of Kenyans and the whites.
Okay.
And they were having several services every Sunday. And he talks about the commitment that he saw in that congregation, their willingness to pray and study the word.
Yes.
And this is a testimony of how faith has been received in the city.
Yes.
Now, 1917, we need to get this clearly for the sake of our viewers. 1917, you can see 1916 we have this great congregation. 1917, the whites decide to establish, they are people of class and order, the whites. So they decided to establish All Saints Cathedral, 1917.
1973.
From 1903, Africans and the whites were worshipping together in the Tin Tabernacle. But 1917, they established the All Saints Cathedral and construction began.
The whites moved from the Tin Tabernacle
now to All Saints. Exactly.
Wow.
So now St. Stephen's continued to stand at Jackson Road. And 1923, now this is about 20 years since 1903, they laid a foundation stone of constructing a permanent building at Parliament Road, that Jackson Road.
So this permanent building, just give me that picture so that I don't get confused.
Yes.
Are we talking about All Saints Cathedral, the permanent building, or St. Stephen's Cathedral?
Now we have agreed, or I have informed you, 1917, All Saints is being built where it is today.
Where it is today.
Yes.
Yes.
But St. Stephen's continues at Jackson Road. Okay?
Wonderful.
And it is St. Stephen's that a permanent building began construction in 1923. And it was a complete church, a church that continued to serve in the 20s, 30s, 40s, until 1950s when something else happened.
We will get to that.
Sure.
We'll get to that.
Yes.
Now, let's look at how it was then. We are seeing faith being put into the picture.
Great.
And I'm seeing you mention over 1,000 people.
Imagine.
Coming in.
Yes.
And here I'm looking at a mixture of both whites and Africans.
Yes.
It means that now Christianity is being inculcated into our society.
Into our society. And people were readily embracing the faith. You can imagine 1916, a congregation of 1,200 meeting at Jackson Road. And majorly, these were people who were railway staff. The East African Railways are already running, so staff who are working for the railways and other government institutions like hospitals that were now taking root in the city, public servants who are serving in the public service and they're serving in the city. These are the people who are making a majority of the congregation.
Wow.
Yes.
My goodness. So, and ladies and gentlemen, if you have any of your old folks still around, your grandmother or your grandfather, if they're still around, talk to them about this. Ask them about how it used to be back then when we had those who were working for the railways, at the Kenya Railways.
Exactly.
Yeah? And how they were worshipping. How was it back then? Know your history.
Indeed.
Now, Provost, I'm looking at how you managed to have this big transition.
Yes.
And it's now All Saints, St. Stephen's.
Yes.
St. Stephen's Cathedral.
Yes.
There at Jackson Road, the current Parliament Road. So you moved from that place to a different area.
Yes.
Jogo Road.
Yes.
Back then, what is the name of the road?
Donholm Road. Donholm Road.
Donholm Road.
Exactly.
How was this transition like?
Now, very interesting. Again, you need to understand the context in the 1950s in our country.
Yes.
By this time, our African leaders or Kenyans were now they had desired self-governance. They were looking for independence.
Yes.
This is the context.
Yes.
So in early 50s, the colonial government, now having heard and seen the mobilization of the people towards self-governance, looked at the congregation at St. Stephen's Jackson Road as a big congregation of African or Kenyan elites. These are the people who are educated. These are the people who are the opinion leaders by then. They were members at St. Stephen's. And they were gathering there every day of the week, and especially on Sundays.
But back then, the Oginga Odingas,
exactly,
the tomboyas,
exactly,
of the day.
That was their home among their fellow Africans. So the colonialists looked at that church.
Yes.
And for me, as a student of history, the movement to Jogoo Road, they said it is this location at Jackson Road which fits very well for the construction of the Parliament. That was the basis. But you and I know 1952, the city of Nairobi was not very well developed. So there were still other beautiful spaces where Parliament would have constructed. But the colonial government said, this is the location where we want to build up the church. The Parliament. So the church has to move. And they facilitated the movement. They provided the 2-acre piece of land we have along Jogoo Road today.
Yes.
They also facilitated the construction of the current church.
The current church,
yes,
where we see St. Stephen's today. It was constructed by the colonial government.
Exactly, a government project. And it was done in a record 1 year. A record 1 year. And in 1953, September 27th, the third bishop of Mombasa, by then the Right Reverend Reginald Passy Crab, consecrated the church along Donholm Road. That meant now the congregation moved from Jackson Road to Jogoo Road.
All right, Mr. Martin, allow me, my director. Provost, is that the picture?
This is the church we are talking about.
Allow me to move to that particular area.
Yes.
We need to look at this thing as it is. This is a picture of St. Stephen's Church.
Yes.
The one that was constructed by the colonial government. Now, look at the roofing, look at the walls.
It's Gothic architecture.
Have you ever renovated this church ever since it was constructed?
We just do simple maintenance.
Simple maintenance?
Yes, just cleaning the walls. Yes. And it has a capacity to seat comfortably 1,200. If we insert more chairs, we can accommodate 1,500 people inside.
Wow.
Yes.
They must have used really good materials that have lasted over 100 years. I'm looking at some of our Kenyan buildings. Many Kenyans are struggling to renovate their buildings, but look at St. Stephen's Church.
Yes.
Constructed in the year?
1952, 1953.
So, when we are looking at this particular building, Provost, you moved from
Jackson Road.
Jackson Road.
Yes.
And to Donholm Road.
Yes.
The current Jogoo Road.
Yes.
Now, when you left, what happened to the building that was constructed at
Jackson Road?
Jackson Road. What happened to it?
Very interesting. We have photos from some of the oldest media houses in Kenya, how that church was blown up using dynamite by the colonial government.
They blew it up?
They blew up that church. Very interesting. We have photographs. I wish I was able to come and share with you people and see how it was literally blown up. The congregation moved to Donholm Road. Let me say something, Ram, about that movement.
Yes.
It was both a blessing and a challenge. Number one, a challenge because it somehow made St. Stephen's to lose some of the highly educated people who are worshipping there.
Why?
remember, we are at the colonialists who are people of class. So the educated Kenyans now, seeing St. Stephen's move to the periphery of the city, Donholm Road, they started to identify more with All Saints than Donholm Road.
So you lost members?
We lost. And that is why today, if you look at St. Stephen's and All Saints Cathedral, our mother cathedral, the mother cathedral is more developed. They have made bigger strides because they had more resources now towards them.
Wow.
Jogoo Road, now it attracted the lower class in Makongeni, Kaloleni, Bahati, Maringo. You see? So
Now,
that was a challenge.
Professor, this was a blessing
and also a
challenge.
Exactly.
They blew up that church with dynamite.
Yes.
I want us to take a short break. This is too much. I want us to take a short break and then we'll be back. We are learning about the legacy of faith.
Yes.
Over 100 years of the St. Stephen's ACK Cathedral Church.
Right.
We'll be back in a bit. Keep it KBC.
The only thing that I know is that you are full of lies. But you are not going to fool me again. And don't you even think that you're going to come out of this one alive. Where are you? Tell me. You should at least face me, you darn woman.
Don't you look at me like that, Karina. I know that you're expecting Rodrigo's baby.
I want us to take advantage so that we can fix a pending issue that we've had for many years. Our divorce.
Oh, you can forget about it. I'm not signing it.
Las bandidas.
Mtoto wetu ako na kisirani, sijui kama ni bibi alimchapa jana, ni drama yoe.
Hani ni anyuki ama na nini mheshimiwa? Tupia Troa, is it part?
Ati?
Tupia artist Troa, is it a part? Yangu leta. Nilitumia mbolea yako kuchora. Huko unasema.
Hapana.
Enda kwa labor ward.
Kwa labor ward ama kwa labor wafanyikazi? Ule kwa wafanyikazi.
Si ndio kwa labor ward.
Si labor ward.
Labor courts.
Labor ward ni pale ya mama kujifungua.
Sio huko. Sio huko mheshimiwa. Why are you working with me mheshimiwa? Kwa nini? Nauliza.
Mimi naargue na wewe.
Askari. Anga utakola kumangana kwa tayari mheshimiwa. Na waache tuongee na mama.
Unaelewa?
Give me the strength to do what I must.
Abraham, do not harm your child. For now I know that you fear God, seeing that you've not withheld your son, your beloved son.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've now moved to this other side of the studio where we want to just have a look at this particular picture. Now, this is the image of the current St. Stephen's Cathedral, SEK. Now, for those of you who are trying to find out where exactly it is, let me just give you a picture of that particular area. Now, St. Stephen's is just along Jogoo Road, and this is at the junction, all right? At the junction between Jogoo Road and Likoni Road. That's where you'll find St. Stephen's Church. At this particular point, now when you click on that, that is a church that is there, St. Stephen's Church. Remember, we've said, constructed 1952. And in 1953 is when it was opened, Provost. Consecrated.
27th.
September.
Yes, 27th.
St. Stephen's Church.
Yes.
This is how it looks inside.
Today.
Yes. And interestingly, even as you look at that particular image, you may think that it is something that was thought of recently. It's actually over 100 years old. That is St. Stephen's Church. Now, if you look at where it came from, initially, it came from the current building where we have Parliament.
Yes, yes.
This is an image of the choir.
Exactly.
For the record, they are known. If you know one thing about St. Stephen's Church, is the choir.
You must talk about the choir.
You must talk about the choir. You cannot fail to mention the choir, because the choir, when President Jomo Kenyatta, Mzee, Jomo Kenyatta, died on 22nd August 1978, it was St. Stephen's Church choir that the state turned to for funeral music guidance.
Yes. Yes.
Not only even when Jomo Kenyatta.
Even when Mzee Moi died.
Even when Mzee Moi died.
They were there when he was lying in state at the Parliament buildings. Yes.
Even during Mwai Kibaki.
Even during Mwai Kibaki.
That is a choir.
Yes.
Wow. And of course, these are just many other images that pertain to this particular church. Now, let me move to All Saints Cathedral. This is All Saints Cathedral.
Our provincial mother cathedral.
What is the difference between All Saints Cathedral and St. Stephen's Church for somebody who has just tuned in this morning and is trying to find out exactly the difference between this particular church, All Saints Cathedral, and St. Stephen's Church that is on Jogoo Road?
True. Now, what we need to understand is that in Nairobi, we have two Anglican cathedrals in Nairobi. This is very unique. Why? Because we have All Saints, which is the provincial cathedral. We refer to it as our mother cathedral. And St. Stephen's Cathedral, which is the cathedral for ACK Nairobi Diocese. Now, having two cathedrals tells you that we have two dioceses within Nairobi. One, a small diocese that is run by the Archbishop of Kenya, and it was established in the year 2000. The year 2000. And it was not until 2002, September 1st, that is when St. Stephen's was elevated. Kitambo, it used to be an ordinary parish, but it was then that it was elevated to the status of a cathedral.
In 2002?
In 2002 September.
All right.
It became now the cathedral for the Bishop of Nairobi Diocese.
Wow.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the history of this particular church here that we now know as St. Stephen's ACK Cathedral Church.
Yes.
Now, let me move over to the other side and we continue with this conversation here. Now, Provost, I'm looking at some of the challenges that you've been facing as a church. You mentioned that when you shifted, you had a big challenge when the church that was at Parliament building currently was blown up with dynamite.
Yes.
You lost a few members, but you gained others.
Yes.
Tell me about how you managed to, the church managed to recover from this particular challenge that they were facing and how they rose up during this period.
Indeed, it's a challenge that St. Stephen's has continued to live with.
Till date.
Because, remember Ram, today, people who are in Eastlands, they are people who are beginning life, growing economically and growing in terms of their experiences. And the tradition has been, when one is well endowed in the city of Nairobi, their desire is to move from Eastlands to the western part of the city and to the better suburbs of the city.
Yes.
So this is a movement that continues even up to today.
Yes.
So we are saying, when the church moved from Jackson Road to Donholm Road, today's Jogo Road, we had these Kenyans who are now educated, who are now endowed, who preferred to live in the other side of the city.
They cannot come to this other side.
Now they can't come because Eastlands is still low cadre estates. And even today, that's the trajectory. People grow up in Eastlands, but they want to go and settle in the better parts of the city. Today, look at the infrastructure in the estates around St. Stephen's. They are still the old estates that were constructed during the colonial times. Very old, Shauri Moyo, Kaloleni, Makongeni. No improvements have been done. But St. Stephen's has stood there and remained true to the calling to grow these people spiritually, to help them become better in life, to understand their calling. And as and whenever they are blessed, we are happy. And we see them going to other areas, and they remain faithful in their firm trust in the Lord.
Well, that is the brief history of this church. Briefly.
Yes.
There's so many things we can talk about.
Yes.
Let's talk about faith.
Exactly.
Faith. I'm looking at your motto.
Yes.
Your vision. And your motto talks about serving the community, the nation, and the world.
Yes.
Your vision, you're talking about to be a worshiping community, positively transforming lives through the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Yes.
How are you achieving this particular vision and motto? How are you living through it? Especially during times like this, where the country is facing so many challenges. Religious leaders are being called upon. We have seen many look up to the church for solace.
True. Number one, I want to say, my brother Ram, that the church has continued to develop programs that are relevant to our current situation. We have to analyze, what are our people going through? What type of ministry can we offer to them in a way that enriches them and offers them hope?
Yes.
One of the biggest challenges we are faced with today is mental health challenges. And we've been talking about it across. And at St. Stephen's, we are establishing a serious department on counseling, talking to people about the state of their minds, helping them to anchor their hope in the right place. You know, the frustrations we are facing as a society is, as and whenever we have elections in Kenya, we are given heavenly hopes by our leaders. Great promises. But soon afterwards, these promises are not actualized. And the society becomes frustrated. They start, getting angry within one and everything. And as a church, we have been teaching people to anchor their hope, not just in the words of men, but more importantly, in the word of God, because that is where we have a hope that does not disappoint.
Yes.
And so this is our key ministry, teaching the word of God to the elderly, to the middle-aged, to our young people. They are now our greatest focus, our youth, our teenagers, our Sunday school. In fact, we are looking at establishing programs that rhyme with the KBC, the approach. We do not want to continue teaching Sunday school the same old way.
Yes.
We must make our children more empowered to understand and be able to derive truth from the Word of God and from their experiences in life for themselves. So we want them to gain knowledge and understanding of God and the truth in a way that they can own, not like pumping information to them.
Not forcing them.
Not forcing them, but helping them to understand and showing them this is how you can go about it. We are looking at becoming a digitally enabled church, where once our children come, you can actually give them, an assignment and allow them to use simple technology and learn from that assignment. That is where we are headed to.
Because 100 years down the line,
yes,
impact must be felt.
Impact
you don't
must
just
be felt.
exist for the sake of it.
And remember, why do we celebrate such anniversaries? For 3 reasons. One, you want to look back 120 years.
Yes.
And then you want to learn from that history. We have gotten an opportunity now to write officially the history of 120 years.
In a book.
This is a book we shall be inaugurating this Sunday when the Archbishop comes to celebrate this event with us on the 30th of July. That is coming Sunday.
This coming Sunday,
yes,
the Archbishop will be there.
The Archbishop will be there. In fact, as we are talking, he's doing a visit across Nairobi Diocese from yesterday through to Friday, visiting our various parishes and institutions, seeing how the church is growing in the city and the impact and influence we are having. And then the climax will be at St. Stephen's on Sunday when he comes to celebrate this service of celebrations of 120 years.
Is this book available for the public?
It will be available in print for the public from Sunday. Once it is inaugurated, it will be now available on sale in our bookshops and other points.
And on this, but on the cover, ladies and gentlemen, it is written, "The Making of a Cathedral, ACK St. Stephen's, Jogo Road."
Right.
The Making of a Cathedral.
Sure.
Interesting book. You should know your history.
Yes.
You should know your history, my friend. So when we talk about religion and we talk about church,
yes,
this
exactly
cannot fail to be mentioned.
It will forever. It will remain a heritage for the church. Yes, I can tell you, my brother Ram, many people did not know that St. Stephen's was the first church to be planted in the city.
I did not know.
Yes.
The first church.
You're not alone. Many. And I'm encouraging even our other churches. It is so important to be writing your history. We've done a lot of work. We have traversed this country looking for any person we knew worshipped at St. Stephen's back then. And I can tell you, it was a hard work to write this book.
How long has it taken?
We started in May 2022. May. That is when we started researching. And we thank God for the history writing committee led by Mr. Boniface Irungu and our editor, Dr. Davura. We have done a lot of work going around the city from Malindi, tracing our other Christians in eastern regions, and we have come up with this material. We thank God.
This book covers the 100-year journey.
Imagine.
That you've taken to the church.
Yes. But it also talks about the future cathedral.
What future cathedral?
I said celebrations give us an opportunity to look back, to see where we are today, and to ask ourselves, what does God want to do with this church for the next generation?
Yes.
So our last chapter in this book talks about the cathedral of the future. And that is where we have enumerated the things we must change now as we look towards the future.
Are you looking towards constructing another cathedral?
Not really. This will serve. But what we are looking to put up are now modern spaces that can help our young people to identify themselves with the church. I can tell you for sure, this Gothic architectural church, a monument in the city of Nairobi, is more appealing to the elderly generation than the younger generation.
You know, the young generation do not know about their history.
Yes, true.
Some do not know.
True.
So I assume.
Yes.
So I believe.
Yes.
Did you know that St. Stephen's was the first church? Or do you believe yours is the first one?
Let me tell you, can I say something?
Yes.
This church has been very instrumental, even in the growth of the Pentecostal churches. You may not be aware that, in fact, ministries like Faith Evangelistic Ministry, when they were beginning, this is where they would come to hold their acacias. It was the biggest space available in the city.
So many Pentecostal churches came from this church.
And many Pentecostal pastors today, you ask them, they can trace their origins at St. Stephen's, now serving in different other churches across the country.
Anglican Church of Kenya.
Yes.
Provost,
Yes.
I cannot say anything more than that. Congratulations on this particular milestone.
We thank God.
We thank God and we give God the glory.
Indeed.
I'm looking at just summing it all up. What is your call to action to Kenyans, especially right now, as a religious leader, from where you sit? You know, we are talking about history. We're talking about the legacy of faith and how we have impacted the society. But now, is the society feeling the church? Is the place of the church being felt by people? Is the church being vocal in transforming lives? Just as we wrap it up, and you also give us a snippet of what we should expect on the 30th.
Indeed.
Yes.
Thank you very much. One, I would say to Kenyans, history helps us to know where we have come from, who we are, and what we should prepare ourselves to achieve in the future. As a nation, we are a greatly blessed country. And I want to encourage Kenyans. We are known as a nation that is religious and that fears God. And we need to put our hope more in God rather than putting our hope in the promises of men. Jeremiah said to the people of Israel that cursed is he who puts their hope in a fellow human being. But blessed is he who puts and builds their hope in God. Kenyans are frustrated by the promises and hopes given by men. And I want to call Kenyans back to God. As we celebrate 120 years at St. Stephen's, we are saying this is a legacy of faith. We are looking at a story of men and women who went ahead of us, who believed God, and who bequeathed to us a legacy we can carry on. Kenyans, come back to God. I know the religious space has been abused. We are just coming from the stories of Shakahola, very devastating stories. The Lord Jesus himself said, in the last days there will be many false prophets and teachers. They are meant to come. But for you, I'm calling you to identify with the body of Christ that teaches the scriptures and that believes in the Lord. Please, let's identify ourselves with the body of Christ. Let's not shy away from church. You know, my brother Ram, even after COVID-19, many Kenyans stayed away out of the churches. But we are calling them back. When you look at the frustrations in the society, the church is the body that offers us hope in God. And I'm calling Kenyans to reconsider your faith. And reconsider your stand so that you can come back to the hope that we have in the Lord. In the meantime, our politicians, we are reminding them they have a responsibility to offer leadership, and the interests of the ordinary Kenyan must be put ahead of any other interest. Our leaders must be willing to talk to each other, not talking at each other or throwing abuses here and there. We are calling the Kenyan leaders, look at what God has done in this nation. Look at the blessings we've been given. Let's not destroy this heritage, because Kenya is our inheritance from God, and it is our gift while we are in this part of the world.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ram.
Thank you so much, Provost. You're a blessing.
We thank God.
You are a blessing.
Amen.
Especially at a time like this when people are talking about church regulation.
Yes.
You know, Shakahola. People are losing faith in God. Some are saying, I would rather stay at home than go to church. The Bible says, I lift my head to the hill. Where does my help come from?
Comes from the Lord.
Comes from the Lord.
Sure, indeed.
As we remember the days of old, 100 years, the legacy of faith, we shall also remember how far God has taken us.
Indeed.
I wish you the best, Provost.
Amen.
Keep doing what you're doing. Keep changing lives.
Sure.
And of course, I was with the Provost Paul Karaoke Mwangi from ACK St. Stephen's Cathedral. A big shout out goes to Jackie Ludubwi. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jackie.
She's a blessing.
She's a blessing. I refer to her as my producer.
She's watching. She has sent me a message. She's watching from Addis Ababa.
Oh, she's in the Peshawar, yes.
She's here.
Thanks,
Thank you so much.
Jackie.
Well, it is on that note that we bring this conversation to a close. May God bless you. God bless the work of your hands. My name is Ram Maguko. This is Good Morning Kenya. Keep it KBC for more of our programming right here on KBC Channel 1. Bye-bye.
The stage is set for a showcase of global talent as Kenya hosts the World Rugby Under-20 Trophy for the second time from the 15th to 30th of July at the Nyayo National Stadium. This year's edition will see 8 teams battle over 4 match days for a place in the World Rugby Under-20 Championship in 2024. Catch the matches live on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Jamani, hebu nitumieni hata kama ni kale kadeni kangu kale kanusu mwezi.
Bidi tuwe na mpango mzuri. Mimi naona nikiendelea hivi Zari nitalipuka au nitachizi.
Nadhani unaweza kuwa perfect kama Rick bila kwenda shule design.
Lazima nianze pale na nimeamua kwanza hapa.
Kwa hivyo samahani kwa hilo bwana Dingo.
Lakini hilo si lililoleta. Ni kuhusu wewe na mke wangu.
Kiswahili kitukuzwe.
Vazi bora tunataka, la heshima na nidhamu. Porojo zenu ondoa, hatutaki unafiki.
Kwamba katika kufanikiwa maishani kwa mwanadamu yategemea masomo ya mtu.
Ufanisi wa mtu unategemea masomo yake.
Ufanisi wa mtu pia hutegemea yale mazingira ambayo anaishi.
Nini maana ya kitawe?
Neno lenye maana zaidi ya moja.
Neno lenye maana zaidi ya moja. Amepata makofi kwake. Pale ambapo utapata mwanafunzi amekuibia maazimio ya kazi, utafanyaje?
Basi utatumia andao la funzo kuweza kujitayarisha kwa kile kipindi ambacho kinafuata. Shukran.
Unaya Mungu muweza wa yote, aliingia rohoni mwangu kanipa kutulia.
Good morning to you. You're right on time for the Senate live proceedings. This being a live proceedings of the Senate on Wednesday morning, the date being the 26th of July, the year is 2023. Remember, this particular live broadcast is brought to you by the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation in collaboration with the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit.